Chapter 1416 The Call from the Seabed. Chapter 1416 The Call from the Seabed _ Sure, Yen was staying in the Phantom Clan's base. After reaching the mortal realm, he fought or cultivated the power Upanishad all the time. He didn't give himself time to relax. This island belonged to the Phantom Clan. It was where they collected information. Of course, it was also the place they used to recruit hotshots and benefit their clan. For example, Meiji had visited the Water Tribe and talked to Yuan Mo. She had persuaded and recruited the Water Tribe, making it a force that was dependent on the Phantom Clan. In the Sea of Annihilation and also the surrounding areas, there were several second-class clans dependent on the Phantom Clan. Meiji was here to establish a close connection with them. Inside the elegant tower, Shiryen sat quietly, his face cold. He was thinking about the events that had just happened recently. He had thought a lot about them. Forefather Dragon Lizard of the Dragon Lizard Clan, Tu Shirchi and Yin from the Mysterious Sky Clan. Sing was killed. Ming Hong had gotten into Audrey's head. Meiji, the Little Skeleton, and the Devouring Clan. The Immortal Realm is still a low realm level. Yen forced a smile and sighed. If he had reached Territory Ancestor Realm, it would have not been a problem on Dragon Lizard Star. He could have threatened Sing and Ming Hong easily. Meiji wouldn't have had a chance to turn him into a meaty pie and try her best to refine his soul. If he had reached the Territory Ancestor Realm, in this Sea of Annihilation, Yerberg wouldn't have dared to rumor anything or disclose his identity. Even if he did that at Territory Ancestor Realm, Yen wouldn't be afraid of any challenge in the Sea of Annihilation. But now, he quickly decided his plan. He must find Audrey and locate the territory entrance. Even if they couldn't return to desolate territory now, at least they would have an exit. He needed to be stronger. Immortal Realm experts could become peerless in desolate territory. However, in the sea domain of nihility, they weren't the top warriors. If he wanted to survive, he had to make efforts to increase his competence continuously. Yen let his soul consciousness check his internal organs, souls, and bone frames. His furrowed brows relaxed. If he wanted to be stronger rapidly, he knew he had a simple method. Devour. His devouring power Upanishad. Yen made up his mind quickly. On the way to the Sea of Annihilation, his realm stabilized. What he needed now was energy. He needed all the energy he could get in his body. Also, if he wanted to help the little skeleton's parents, he had to gather a lot of energy. After several days, he hadn't received any news from Meiji. After she returned to this island, Meiji had parted from him. She didn't meet him once. He called for Yulien. The young girl came with fear. "Why do you call me?" "Madame Meiji said that you should stay here and cultivate. Don't worry. Once we get news about the girl you want to find, we will tell you immediately." "Which area of the Sea of Annihilation is the most chaotic?" asked Yen all of a sudden. "What do you mean?" Yu was surprised. "Where do battles take place the most? Where do a lot of people die?" Yen tried to make himself clear. Yulien pointed at the ground and said without too much thinking, "The seabed. The seabed." Yen was surprised. The Sea of Annihilation's seabed is so vast. It attracts so many warriors to come and explore. Deep undersea, precious treasures and materials are often found. It's when the experts come and compete for them. The seabed is the fiercest battlefield. "We won't go there recklessly because we're afraid of furious battles," answered Yulien. "So which section has the fiercest battles?" asked Yen. "I'm not sure," Yulien frowned. "The seabed is so vast. The explorers are also scattered around. Sometimes it takes a lot of effort to find someone." Yen nodded and pondered for a while. He then said, "You tell Meiji that I'm going out for a while." Then he didn't mind Yulien's words, turning into a thunderbolt and flying away. The Phantom Clan's island had many barriers and restrictions. However, Those were used to defend against people intruding the island. It wasn't easy to get into the island. However, it was no problem to fly out from the inside. Thus, Shi could fly away freely. Yulian didn't stop him, and she couldn't stop him anyway. She could only see him fly away. Yulian was dumbstruck. After she could get a hold of herself, she hurried to find Meiji and tell her that he was gone. Meiji wore brocade and silk dress and sat inside a secret chamber in the main hall. She was holding a yellow ancient book. After listening to Yulian, she waved her hand and said, "I got it. You can leave now." Yulian left quietly. Meiji dropped the ancient book, her beautiful face suspicious. She thought for a while and mumbled to herself, "That kid has so many secrets. But why does he have to visit the most chaotic areas? Does he have any conspiracy?" Her thoughts changed, and she stepped out of the secret chamber. After giving orders to her close subordinates, she left the island. Seabed. A figure covered in the starlight slowly sank into the sea. The blue sea surface was above his head, and he was facing the dark, cold water with the pressure increasing continuously. Inside the light curtain, Shi was observing his surroundings while sinking deeper. In this cold sea there was no fish. Shi soul consciousness expanded, and he found only the cold, dark areas. He rose a finger and poked through the light curtain to touch the sea water. The sea water was indeed icy. It seemed like the cold could seep into his bones and marrow. He retracted his finger, slowly quieted down, and closed his eyes. He was using the soul power to survey the surroundings with the hope of finding a group of people. It would be better if he could find a battle. He needed battles. He needed people to die. He needed energy from them. He was still sinking deeper toward the seabed, frowning and thinking. According to Meiji, someone said that the sea of annihilation was like a funnel. The surface of the sea was the bottom of the funnel, and the seabed was hundreds of times bigger than the sea surface. It could be as big as an immense territory. He didn't really believe that, but now he understood it. Since he was a warrior cultivating space power Upanishad, the speed of his soul energy and soul consciousness was 10 or even 100 times faster than a normal warrior's. However, his soul consciousness had reached the limit before it could cover a part of the sea of annihilation. Although he had let his soul consciousness reach as far as he could, he felt that this sea didn't have an end. After a while, he sent a wisp of soul consciousness into the heavenly fantasy star, Compass, to check the time. It had been 3 days since he began to sink into the sea. And he was still sinking. How deep was the sea? However, he had to reduce his speed because the water pressure became more terrifying the deeper he went. At his realm and cultivation base, he gradually felt tired. One day, he suddenly stopped sinking and hovered in the sea. His soul consciousness changed direction. He sent it toward the seabed. As his soul consciousness wasn't tied by the water pressure, it moved rapidly and searched. Oh! Shiryan opened his eyes. The strange light flared from his eyes when his body shivered. He was so surprised when he looked at the seabed underneath. His face became odd. He had sensed a familiar aura deep undersea. Somewhere deep down there, a voice was calling him. He suddenly felt that he could trust that call. To be more exact, that soul calling aimed at his co-soul, and his co-soul reported that familiar aura. His co-soul had fused with Grace Mainland, one of Desolate's wisps. It was also the soul of an absolute beginning creature. That familiar aura sent him a trustful feeling. What was it? He knew that it was really far from him. With the distance his soul consciousness had sensed, it would take around 10 days to get there. Shiryan frowned and hovered astounded. The absolute beginning era was the epic of annihilation. The absolute beginning creatures were so powerful. They were the ancestors of billions of creatures, and they were also the Creator's favorite children. Those intimidating creatures were born with terrifying powers. Although the warriors had improved and advanced power Upanishads for many years, the absolute beginning creatures were still the strongest in this world. The thing that made his co-soul, the absolute beginning creature soul, feel family and trust, what is it? Hesitating for a while, he made his decision, which he acted upon immediately. He flew to the area that his soul consciousness had sensed. That area was pretty far from him and in the deeper level of the sea. He couldn't move fast in the water because of the pressure. Slowly, the light cage he made from star energy wore out. After several days, he had to stop and gather his god power by using the star power Upanishad to weave a new light cage. Somewhere on the seabed. So many light cages were moving. Each of those different colored light cages contained a beefy man. If Shi Yan was here, he would have found that they were the men he had met. The leader of this group was Yerberg. He stayed half naked, showing the exquisite beast marks on his upper body. He was calmly moving through the water. A green light cage moved next to him, carrying a small and thin alien. His eyes sparkled as if he was checking something. Gradually, he looked restless. It should be near here. I'm sure it's just around. How could things go wrong? Lately, when I came, I found it near here. That alien warrior had spent a lot of time going around the seabed. The previous time he came here with some comrades, he found an absolute beginning vestige accidentally. However, they couldn't approach it. Their souls became dizzy, and they lost their consciousness shortly. When they woke up, they were floating on the sea surface. Yerberg suddenly stopped, his face dark as he hissed. I hope you could guide us in the right way. Otherwise, you know the consequence. As soon as he said that, the little alien changed his visage, and even his green light cage trembled, becoming extremely unstable. Another area on the seabed. So many cold-looking warriors were surrounding a tall and thin woman. They were raking around as if they were searching for something. Whether they were male or female warriors, they all had thick black scales as their natural armor. They were all tall and muscular. The thick demon chi diffused from them and gave people a terrifying warning. The woman was the leader of this group. She was also tall and thin with thick black scaled armor. The black scales seemed to grow from her skin, and they were part of her body. They were the members of the Black Demon Clan. Chapter 1417. Go Together. Chapter 1417. Go Together, _ Seabed. A flow of starlight zoomed fast like a meteor and headed in a direction. It flashed and then disappeared. The twinkling starlight was brilliant and beautiful, but it was also as dangerous as a cold sword. It felt even colder than the sea water. Swoosh! The starlight halted. Inside the starlight, Shiryan wore a solemn face and looked at the group of warriors with the thick demon chi in front of him. He changed his face and couldn't help but shout, "Black Scale Clan!" He used to fight against the demon clan in the endless sea of Grace mainland. He thought about those warriors with black-scaled armor. However, it was a surprise that he could see the members of the Black Scale clan deep under the sea of annihilation. He was bewildered. However, watching carefully, he found that they were different from the Black Scale clan. The black scales on their bodies were smaller and more delicate. They seemed to be refined from real bones and dyed black. Also, the scales of the Black Scale clan members looked as if they were made of metal. He was bewildered for a while, but then reacted fast. He remembered Meiji used to tell him about a race. Immediately he said, "Black Demon Clan." The Black Demon Clan was one of the 7 great clans in the sea domain of nihility. They were famous for their combative nature. They were a clan that could give others a headache. No one wanted to provoke this clan. The woman from the Black Demon Clan looked as rough as a man. She didn't have any beautiful features. Hearing Shiryan scream, she shot him a cold look and then urged her people, "Don't delay our business. Keep on going." The male and female warriors of the Black Demon Clan looked savage. They glanced at Shiryan and then left quietly. They were leaving in the direction Shiryan Yan had sensed earlier. Sure, Yan was also surprised. Pondering for a few seconds, he grinned and followed them, neither slow nor fast. Farlow, why don't you kill him?" asked the hunky man of the Black Demon clan. His body was like a black mountain with cold and dark aura. "Telika, we're here to find the vestige. Don't cause more trouble." The rough woman turned around with a stern face. She looked at the man behind her, thought, and then said, "We're in the Sea of Annihilation. There can be some territory ancestors here. Don't think that the others will always be afraid of us." "But that kid has only first sky of Immortal Realm cultivation base," snorted Telika. "Farlow, is it true that you've become a coward since we came to the Sea of Annihilation? If it's true, I think I'm more suitable to lead this group." The woman he called Farlow looked at him coldly and said, "He's not someone you can kill easily. If he's from another force and he can find the vestige because of our location, we will have one more obstacle." Telika was resolute. "Just a first sky of Immortal Realm. It's easy to kill him, and our whereabouts won't be disclosed." The other members of the Black Demon clan nodded quietly and agreed with Telika. They thought that it made sense. It was very important. To locate the vestige, the Black Demon clan had to spend a lot of effort. They couldn't afford any mistake. Killing someone who could possibly become trouble was the right decision. Farlow looked bored. "If you think it's easy to kill him, just try it. We will wait for you for 15 minutes. 15 minutes? Too much. I'm going to be back right away." Telika grinned. He shot backward like a ruthless sword. The sea water parted as if it was proactively making way for him. Shortly after, he stopped Sure Yen in his way. Sure Yen frowned and hovered. The light moved around his body. He looked at the Black Demon man, who obviously didn't come with goodwill. "What do you want?" "To kill you," Telika said simply. He laughed and balled his fingers into a massive fist like a hammer. He grumblingly pounded on Sure Yen's head. Boom, boom, boom. Thick thunders came from his punch. The exploding power in the terrifying thunders was like a furious water current that was breaking a dam. With the will and momentum, it could break any obstacle. Sure Yen lifted his head and looked at the torrential water. He felt like many mountains were pressing on him. "Kill me? With your second sky of Immortal Realm? Ridiculous." Sure Yen frowned and raised his hand to snatch the man. Sharp lights emerged from his fingers. The strong light parted into 5 rivers that could cut everything and crush the thunder. Boom, boom, boom. The ear-breaking explosions echoed above Sure Yan's head. The savage Black Demon man had 5 cuts on his fist. He screamed and looked at the cuts on his fists in disbelief. "Space power Upanishad." Sure Yen didn't answer and just acted. His 5 fingers snatched over Telika and pulled the void. The 5 dazzling lights were like sharp swords twisted together and aimed at Telika's chest. If he let it thrust into his body, he couldn't avoid death. "Space power Upanishad? What can you do with it?" Telika sneered. Thunder exploded in his chest. Instantly, thunder rumbled from his entire body like drum beats, shaking the entire sea area. He curled his lips. The energy in his eyes condensed into 2 silver spears and stabbed forward. A massive light shield emerged from Sure Yan's chest, blocking the 2 cold spears. Telika still wanted to attack Sure Yan more. A figure flashed. It was Farlow who had stopped him earlier. "I told you it's not easy to kill him. You've confirmed it. Why do you still want to waste your power? It requires a lot of energy to kill a warrior with space power Upanishad. Do you want to delay our business? If so, you can leave this group now and go say sorry to the elders." The muscular woman with masculine features had a husky voice. She wasn't polite when she criticized him. She turned to Sure Yen, her eyes serious. "You're not a member of the 7 great clans. I hope you won't follow us furthermore. Otherwise, we won't let you go easily." Telika snorted and rolled his eyes maliciously at Shiryen. I don't have time to waste on you. You're lucky today. The female leader of the Black Demon clan nodded as she saw her fellow agree with her. She didn't say more and left. If you're bold, just keep following us. Telika grinned fiendishly after the woman had left. Shiryen rubbed his chin and said indifferently, Of course, I have to keep moving. It's the same direction. Is it the same place I've sensed? He immediately moved. After a while, another group of warriors came to this place. Yerberg was the leader of this group. After Yerberg arrived, he closed his eyes to sense for a while. Then his eyes brightened as he laughed. I could smell Telika's thunder here. He had just fought with someone not a long time ago. He looked in the direction where the Black Demon clan and Shiryen had left, laughing contentedly. It seems like we don't need a guide anymore. Then he turned around and killed the thin alien warrior that had taken them here. Chapter 1418 Cannon Fodder? Chapter 1418 Cannon Fodder, Anusur. He's still following us. Telika stopped and turned around to check. The lightning was like a massive python that wound around him. We should kill him to prevent others from finding us. All of a sudden, they saw many green bubbles floating and drifting in the dark sea water. Those bubbles were translucent and floating quietly. They didn't rise up to the surface. Farlo was about to answer him before she saw those green bubbles. Her face changed instantly. The warriors of the Black Demon clan turned around to look. They were also frightened and didn't mind Telika. Also, Telika was bewildered himself. Each green bubble carried an icy corpse. However, all the corpses were withered, like a dry stick. Their faces were twisted in extreme fear and despair. It seemed like they had seen something utterly terrible before they died, or they had been tortured until they died. Looking at their horrible facial expressions, the other warriors felt so chilled. Countless cold corpses floated inside the bubbles. The bubbles were like coffins that covered their dry, dead bodies. Those bodies didn't have any signs of a battle. However, their distorted faces were so eye-catching, and they made Farlo and Telika inwardly cold. Something is wrong. Farlo was cautious and raised one hand to signal the others to stop. They kept a distance with those green bubbles. They didn't come near rashly. Farlo checked each body and observed for a while. They didn't fight. No wound. We can say they... Pausing for seconds, she lowered her voice and hissed. Their souls were captured instantly. Before they died, they had seen something desperately horrible. Otherwise, their faces wouldn't twist like that even after they died. I don't know why I feel insecure when I see their faces, whispered a member of the Black Demon clan. I have the same feeling. Me too. It's like an instinct. Looking at them, we think that we will face something like that, and we will end up like them. After they had expressed their opinions, they all quieted down all of a sudden. They felt a chill run down their spines as if the sea water was running through their bodies and affecting their minds. It made everybody restless. Farlo turned around. Not far behind them, a white cluster suddenly flashed. It looked like someone was hiding. Telika, can we avoid going through that area? She pondered for a few seconds and then turned to the other. Telika frowned and shook his head. It seems like we can't. It's strange, though. What's strange? Asked Farlo. I killed that man to rob the memories of this route. We're going the right way. However, they didn't see these bubbles. The route is correct. So, there is only one possibility. Telika changed his visage slightly. Those green bubbles have just appeared recently. They didn't exist. We can say that they weren't there before. If we can't move around, we can get through them once. Anyway, I think it's not good. If we have to get in there, something bad will happen for sure, said Farlo. Your intuition is always precise. If you say something bad will happen, it will happen. Telika nodded. Whenever they encountered some important situation, He never stopped trusting Farlow. "I have an idea," he suddenly grinned evilly. Everybody knew he was cunning enough. Their eyes brightened. Some warriors who were close to him saw him look over his shoulder sometimes with his bright eyes. They understood and grinned like him. "You are saying that—" Farlow's masculine face had a sinister resolution. She also understood his idea. "We need someone to scout." Telika grinned, his face ferocious. "Of course, we can't sacrifice our members. That rascal sneaking behind us wants to die. We should fulfill his wish." Farlow nodded and agreed with his idea. "He cultivates space power Upanishad. You can't handle him single-handed. We should—" Before she finished, she halted, her face changing in fear. "Not good. Someone is coming." Telika and the warriors of the Black Demon clan became tense. They urged their powers and got ready to engage in a battle. Shortly after, Yerburga's straightforward laughter came from afar. He took several men of the ancient monster tribe and went with fearless countenances. Yerburg laughed loudly. "We were lost for a while on the way. Thank you, Telika, for fighting with someone. You left your special aura there. You helped me to get back to the right route." Telika grimaced. "Yerburg, you're here for the vestige too?" "Of course," Yerburg laughed casually. "Don't think that only you guys know about this. Oh, right. Tate also knows things related to this vestige. I think the Devouring Clan and the Soul Clan also pay attention to this matter. I'm not surprised that I saw you guys here. I think we will see more people from other directions. Yeah, we'll see them sooner or later." Farlow and Telika changed their faces slightly. They just realized that they would encounter a lot of bad things during this trip. How could it be? I've killed almost all of them. Telika, you missed a fish. He sold the news about the vestige, but he didn't sell them to me first. I've just killed him recently. He'd created more opponents for this trip. He deserved death. Yerburg smiled nonchalantly. He looked at the green bubbles and gasped in surprise. "What the heck are those?" "Should be some barriers or restriction," Farlow didn't conceal. She knew and concealed but couldn't do anything. She waved her hand to dismiss her people to let Yerburga's team come near. Of course, Yerburg wasn't going to try to be polite. He took his team and moved forward. A radiant halo emerged from his eyes when he gazed at so many green bubbles. His face became stern. Some evil soul energy had attacked them. They died instantly and tragically. Their brains were like porridge and their soul altars shattered. "Someone has to go there," said Farlow. "Can't move around?" asked Yerburg. "We don't have any alternative now," Telika snorted. "The location of the vestige should be right under those bubbles. We have to get in there and dive deeper to see if we could find something." Yerburg was surprised as he laughed. "Do you have any solution?" "Someone doesn't belong to our team or your team. On the way here, he has followed us. Now he's hiding," Farlow said and raised one hand. "There?" Yerburg grinned. "I know your Black Demon clan is full of dark schemes. Turns out you already have cannon fodder. Yeah, it's good that you're not crazy. You don't plot against us. It's good that we have someone to scout and sacrifice, though." He nodded to someone standing next to him. "Go." Farlow had shown them the location. Of course, they wanted the ancient monster clan to go get the man. Yerburg didn't deny it. He straightforwardly agreed. A muscular ancient monster man roared like a beast about to hunt. Unexpectedly, his teeth had torn the corners of his mouths and become sharp and long like fangs. He directly stormed toward Sher Yan's hiding spot. As he roared, his brutal aura of a wild animal had turned into a massive fighting saber, which was around 10 meters. It cut and separated the water, slashing Sher Yan. Boop! 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 The seawater exploded wherever the saber slashed through. The area Farlow had pointed was seething and thundering grumblingly. However, there was no participle shadow that screamed or cursed. The beefy man of the ancient monster clan was surprised as he looked at Farlow. He doubted that she didn't point in the right place. Farlow darkened her face, her eyes angry. He cultivates space power Upanishad. I didn't expect that he had a profound realm. He could even teleport under the sea. Then, Farlow closed her eyes and searched again. However, she was wrong this time. Nothing. I can't sense his aura in the surrounding areas. He knows what we are planning to. I think he used the advantages of the space power Upanishad to get out of here. It means that we don't have a cannon fodder now. Yerberg sighed in disappointment. He signaled his warrior not to waste more energy. He knew Farlow's magical power Upanishad. If she said that this man wasn't around, they shouldn't waste more energy. Meanwhile, in the turbulent water area, Shi Yan was hiding. He seemed to have become part of the sea water, quietly bobbing at his spot. He had used the marvelous dark energy. While dark energy moved around the body, the aura on his bones, flesh, and veins disappeared. The typical features that were detectable also disappeared. It was like bloodthirsty's remains that could be invisible. There was no way to see or sense them with the soul consciousness. That attack had hit him, actually. That warrior of the ancient monster clan had reached first sky of a mortal realm, but his body couldn't compare to Shi Yan's regarding evolution. Thus, that attack didn't hurt him at all. However, his mood was still bad. Staying hidden, he was like a venomous snake that watched Yerberg of the ancient monster clan and the cunning, evil Farlow and Telika. He licked his lips and tried to suppress his brute. Cannon fodder. It had been a long time since someone dared to treat him like that. Under the sea of annihilation, he now encountered such a humiliation. They had considered him cannon fodder. He looked at the groups of the ancient monster clan and the black demon clan discussing. They wanted to join hands and go through the clusters of green bubbles. Shi Yan sneered and waited silently. He was waiting to see them go deep into the area. Then he would become a hunter that killed his prey and deemed themselves part of a noble, advanced race. He would use them to accumulate more energy. Chapter 1419. Slight Change. Chapter 1419. Slight Change. Undersir. Countless crystal green bubbles floated like a silent green lantern or so many strange, evil eyes watching the others intruding. Each bubble carried a desiccated corpse, which had probably endured something utterly terrible before they died with a desperate and fearful face. Everybody watch out, Farlow reminded. She was a woman with a body that was even brawnier than a man's. At this moment, she was covered inside so many white light layers. Her light protection looked like an egg that continuously released strange soul energy fluctuations. It seemed like she had sent so many wisps of soul consciousness to check around. The members of the Black Demon clan gathered by her. Telika stayed furthest away from her, but it was just around 20 steps. They were actually creating a formation with Farlow as the center. Yerberg led the ancient monster clan and tried to stay away from Farlow's group to avoid any possible dispute. Slowly, they moved toward the green bubbles. Farlow had a rare mind power Upanishad. She was sensitive to the soul consciousness and energy. Also, she had a miraculous intuition when they were in danger. She expanded her soul consciousness. All of a sudden, she looked at the turbulent area where it had exploded and doubted. When her soul consciousness reached that area, she vaguely felt a feeble wisp of soul energy. It flashed and then disappeared. When she tried to sense again, it had utterly disappeared. Just an illusion. She shook her head and suppressed the doubt in her mind, continuing to search through the green bubbles. Shi Yan was tense while hiding in his secret spot. He became more cautious. Farlow had just third sky of a mortal realm. She couldn't detect Shi Yan precisely like Meiji had done when he used dark energy to hide. Anyway, this woman had a special power Upanishad that had almost busted Shi Yen when he was a little careless. Shi Yen had to be more cautious. He couldn't resist many members of the Black Demon Clan and Ancient Monster Clan here. As soon as he was exposed, he would suffer from the pitiful consequence of being their cannon fodder. Before the others had sunk deeply into the death trap, he had to ensure that he stayed concealed in his secret spot. Shi Yen retreated his released soul consciousness. He sealed himself and didn't try to sense the surroundings, using his eyes and ears. His pupils shrank all of a sudden. A muscular man of the Ancient Monster Clan moved to the area between the green bubbles. He looked frightened, and his soul was taken immediately. He became wild, screaming, and then attacking the nearest Ancient Monster Clan warrior. Thud! A ferocious giant snake shot out from his palm. In just a blink, the snake expanded and opened its dark, bloody mouth to swallow that member of the Ancient Monster Clan. The snake fangs began to chew and tear the victim's body. Shriek! Shriek! All of a sudden, the screeching and shrieking arose from deep undersea. It was like a chilling saber drilling into people's hearts and slashing their soul altars. Farlow of the Black Demon Clan released her soul consciousness to check the secrets of this area. Her muscular body couldn't help but shiver. Blood ran from her mouth, nostrils, eyes, and ears. They looked like many horrible blood snakes that rose the hair on people's heads. She had a deep fear on her face as she screamed ear-piercingly, "Retreat! Retreat, all of you!" She screamed crazily. Instinctively, she wanted to get rid of this area. However, in almost a blink of an eye, this sea area's gravity felt 1,000 times heavier. It felt like so many invisible chains had come and tied all of them. The members of the Ancient Monster Clan and Black Demon Clan tried their best to struggle using their power Upanishads that they had been cultivated for thousands of years. Thunder and lightning exploded. The fire dragon roared. Icicles shelled everywhere. The rainbow light bloomed. The entire sea area was stirred up with exploding energies. The warriors in that death trap seemed to be possessed. Their faces looked ultimately panicked and desperate as they tried their best to run away for their lives. Gradually, some of them who were possessed began to attack the others. They were using their best powers to kill their longtime partners. Cut limbs were everywhere. Blood splashed. That sea area was now a terrible scene in hell that people didn't want to look at twice. Shi Yen had planned to seize the chance to attack the others and make them pay a bloody price. However, he couldn't hold on to that thought. Dark energy returned to his head. He wasn't invisible anymore, so he hovered from a far distance and watched. Ahead of him was a sealed area because, although there were so many dead people, there was no beam of aura to get out of the place. He didn't get any benefit from their deaths. From where he was hovering, he saw the members of the Ancient Monster Clan and Black Demon Clan sink into a desperate situation. He looked at Farlow, Telika, and Yerberg, the three with high ranks and noble positions. They were using their blood and power to urge their treasures and turn into 3 lightning bolts, trying to get rid of the place. He didn't know that Farlow, Telika, and Yerberg were the outstanding characters in their clans. They had received focus training, and they had life protection, secret treasures that Territory Ancestor Realm experts had refined for them. Farlow was squeezing a glass ball in her hand, which had many brilliant lights. Telika was holding a long spear with lightning drawings. His spear was wiggling like a snake. Yerberg was wearing sparkling gold armor. At this moment, his armor had some fine cracks. All of them were excellent warriors in their clans. With the life protection treasures bestowed from their precursors, they tried to make a way out of that evil sea area. They had fear in their eyes that they couldn't hide. They looked at their fellows, slaughtering each other until death. Slowly, the dead warriors sank deeper to the seabed in that area. The desperate gleam on the faces of the dried corpses inside the green bubbles seemed to change quietly. Now they looked mocking somehow. It was like they were brought back to life and releasing evil energy that affected those who dared to intrude just a moment ago. Shortly after, that sea area quieted down. Blood diluted in the sea water. The fellows that Farlow and Yerberg had brought here all sank into the seabed. It became silent again. Farlow, Telika, and Yerberg were petrified. Seeing their members die tragically, they were extremely frightened. They didn't dare to move toward that area one more time. Sure, Yen was around 100 meters away from them. They saw him, but they didn't make a move. They just observed the sea area ahead. A long time after that, Farlow pulled herself together. The fear in her eyes hadn't dispersed yet. We can't go in there with our own power. We don't need to stay here and waste more efforts. We're going to return and report to the superior. Yerberg didn't respond. He just gave her a nod. He knew that Farlow was right. The dangers in this area weren't something that they could survive. If it wasn't because of the divine weapon they had received from the precursor in their clans, they would have had the same consequence. They would have become one of those corpses sinking over there. Yerberg turned around to look at Sure Yen. His face changed. It's you somehow. Sure. Yen looked calm as he proactively walked to them. Are you going to retreat? No one paid attention to him. Although Sure Yen had special power Upanishads, his realm was too low. He had only first sky of a mortal realm, and he wasn't from the 7 great clans. Farlow and the others were hurt. While they were worried and irritated the most, Sure Yen reappeared and approached them. He gave them strange thoughts. Was he seeking death? Are you all mute? Frowning, Sure Yen looked at Farlow and said, What did you sense in there? I know you have a strange power Upanishad. You must have perceived something. Hiding in the dark while the members of the Black Demon clan and the Ancient Monster clan were wounded, he had released the soul consciousness of the co-soul. He felt that familiar aura and the magical call from the deep area of the sea one more time. However, the intimidating soul consciousness that had killed the Black Demon clan and Ancient Monster clan members wasn't the familiar soul he had sensed. It made him more cautious and dare not to intrude the area. I'm curious, how can you hide where I can't find you? Besides space power Upanishad, what else have you cultivated? Farlow didn't answer but asked. I asked first, said Sure Yen. Farlow's rough face grew impatient and hot-tempered. What are you? You're at first sky of a mortal realm only. You're not a member of the 7 great clans, either. Do you think you deserve to talk to me? Meiji didn't come with you here, asked Yerberg all of a sudden. Listening to them, Farlow and Telika were bewildered. They turned to see Yerberg. This fella is called Sure Yen. He rode the high waves on Dragon Lizard Star. Yeah, you're right. He's the lucky guy with a wisp of a soul of an absolute beginning creature. I'm curious why Meiji hadn't refined you on the way. I know that because of Batum, Meiji wouldn't hesitate to pay any price to reach the territory ancestor realm. Well, as she didn't kill you, does she like you? Asked Yerberg in a low-pitched voice. Farlow and Telika were startled. They looked both surprised and greedy. So, you guys want to refine me to take the absolute beginning creature's soul I got? Sure Yen felt ridiculous. Meiji failed. Do you think you can do that? Meiji failed. They were astounded. Farlow and Yerberg were at 3rd sky of a mortal realm, but they weren't at the peak. Telika had only 2nd sky of a mortal realm cultivation base. Talking about credit or realms, they couldn't compete with Meiji. If Meiji failed, would they fail too? He was just a junior at 2nd sky of a mortal realm. How could Meiji fail? If she didn't fail, why was this fellow still alive? All of them were so suspicious because of Sure Yen. They weren't so sure if he was saying the truth. Someone is coming. Sure, Yen changed his face and turned to look in the direction behind him. Should be the members from your 7 great clans. It seems like everybody knows about the absolute beginning vestige. You are just a pioneer group. Well, the group with the worst luck. Yerberg, Telika turned to look at Farlow. Farlow was skeptical and shook her head. I can't feel anything. I'm not sure if he is telling the truth. Chapter 1420, She's My Woman. Chapter 1420, She's My Woman. Anusvar. Farlow cultivated mind power Upanishad, so her sensitivity was always better. When she said she didn't feel anything abnormal, Yerberg and Telika were disdainful. Apparently, they believed Farlow's assumption. Sure, Yen didn't explain. He put more distance between him and the other three to prevent a possible dispute. Sure Yen discreetly moved. Before those people got here, Sure Yen didn't plan to say more. Sure Yen had used the soul consciousness with space power Upanishad to sense a group of warriors moving behind them. Although Farlow's mind power Upanishad was magical, her long-distance sensing wasn't strong enough. What should we do to him? Telika lowered his voice. The group of the Black Demon clan coming here had to bear a big loss. Only Telika and Farlow survived. At this moment, he was in a really bad mood. He wanted to vent it out. Whatever you want. I don't have any idea. Well, if you can kill him to take his soul, it's your luck. Yerberg shrugged, his eyes cold and sinister. He wanted to see Telika attack the other to measure Sure Yen's competence. I've tried, snorted Telika. Yerberg was surprised and felt ridiculous. So you didn't defeat him when you battled him earlier. Telika grimaced. Telika, come back to the sea surface and report the situation. I'm here to watch. We will do it when our clan's hotshots come, said Farlow all of a sudden. Why don't you do that yourself? Snorted Telika. I can, Farlow hissed. She didn't have any mild feature of a woman. She acted more like a rude man. If you aren't afraid of being killed by Yerberg, you can stay here. I'm going back. Why would I do that? Yerberg rubbed his nose. His face was as if he was being treated unfairly. Telika discolored as he suddenly remembered that Yerberg was here too. Moreover, he had third sky of a mortal realm, which was one level higher than his. He didn't want to stay anymore. This kid is a thorn in my eyes. I want to kill him before I leave. Up to you. Farlow didn't think it was a big matter. However, as soon as she finished talking, her face changed. No, it was the first time she was frightened. She turned to Sure Yen, her face baffled. Someone is coming. As soon as she said that, Telika and Yerberg were also fearful. They turned to observe Sure Yen in surprise. Although he was too far away from the coming people, he could sense them beforehand. He was more precise than Farlow. From this feature, they could tell that he wasn't ordinary at all. Telika wanted to kill Sure Yen, but now he had to put this thought aside, frowning and hovering. 10 minutes later, a group of 6 warriors with exquisite, shining armor came. They moved like quiet spirits in the water. Their leader was a woman wearing a thick and complicated set of armor. The gold, bright yellow, and orange red lines created patterns of the sun, flowers, and flames on her armor. Her armor covered her slender, straight thighs, her ample breasts, and her wheatish skin tone. She kept her shoulders, flawless abdomen, and half of her long legs covered. Following her were 5 men in dark armor. Their auras were calm and cold. Their eyes were brilliant with divine lights. Sure Yen was startled at a first glance as he mumbled, "Mysterious Sky Clan." The mysterious Sky Clan woman with sexy clothes looked around 30 years old. She had tender, lovely facial contours, her eyes twinkling. Peak of a mortal realm. At first glance, Sure Yen could see her real realm. He became cautious. Ling Mei. Farlow was surprised when she saw who came. Her eyes flashed as she snorted. I didn't expect the mysterious Sky Clan to come here. And it's you unexpectedly. It seems like you guys are interested in the absolute beginning vestige a lot. Farlow, Yerberg, Telika. The mysterious Sky Clan woman, called Ling Mei, gently nodded to the three and said their names. She looked nonchalant as she spoke relaxingly. Why are only you here? The other three kept silent with grimaces. Well, of course, they didn't come here with only these people. Unfortunately, 1 hour before you came, all were killed. Yeah, right in between those green bubbles. Shi Yan intervened, pouting at the area ahead of them and speaking indifferently. Shut up, bellowed Farlow and Telika. Shi Yan chuckled. With your realm and competencies, you need more to shut me up. If the real experts of your clan came here, besides shutting my mouth, I would also stay as far away from here as I can. The hot woman of the mysterious Sky Clan wore a tender face like calm water. The corners of her mouth drew a strange smile. She looked interested when she assessed Shi Yan. Her eyes suddenly brightened when she pulled a stern face. Are you Shi Yan? Shi Yan was surprised. Did Tu Shirqi and Yin tell you something about me? It's you. Ling Mei beamed honestly. Those two precursors are heading to this Sea of Annihilation. They told me about you, and they said that you could go to the Sea of Annihilation. I didn't expect you to come so early. Ling Mei pulled a stern face and introduced herself. I am Ling Mei, the one who's in charge of the Sea of Annihilation in the mysterious Sky Clan. If you meet any trouble, don't hesitate and just come see me. I'm sure I'll try my best to help you. Farlow, Yerberg, and Telika discolored in fright when they heard that. Now, when they turned to Shi Yan, they all had odd countenances. Why would he need to disturb your mysterious Sky Clan? However, at this moment, a charming voice came from a far distance. Afterward, a cold light zoomed over. Mei Ji came. Mei Ji wore a luxurious, long dress, showing her snow-white skin. Her face was charming, and her soft voice could reach people's souls. Mei Ji was truly an innate treasure. As long as she appeared, Ling Mei's beauty became inferior. Her mature, attractive features made Yerberg and Telika aroused. They almost got a nosebleed. As soon as Mei Ji arrived, she didn't hesitate to approach Shi Yan and blame him. Why did you have to get into the sea? Even if something happened, you should have told me first. Didn't you know that someone has sold you down the river? Then her cold eyes gazed at Yerberg as she said awkwardly, you're here too. You always put it on your mouth that you had to repay my favor. Well, just a turn, and you've sold me already. Yerberg, your deeds aren't bad at all? Yerbo looked ashamed and bowed to her. The Devouring Clan and the Soul Clan had a big price. You know what I sell, right? I couldn't help but sell the information. Mei Ji giggled and waved her hand elegantly. I'm not going to blame you. Anyway, don't dream about getting more information from me. The relationship between us ends here. Shi Yan, how are you related to her? Ling Mei of the mysterious Sky Clan couldn't explain this. When she received the message from Tu Shirqi and Yin, Tu Shirqi had asked her to protect Shi Yan. Even if they had to become the Phantom Clan's enemy, they had to ensure Shi Yan's safety. Tu Shirqi also said that Mei Ji would try her best to hunt Shi Yan. She wanted to refine his soul to reach the territory ancestor realm. Lately, Ling Mei had paid attention, and today, seeing Shi Yan undersea, she was both happy and afraid. She had just decided to protect him, and Mei Ji had shown up with some unknowingly clingy feelings toward Shi Yan. Ling Mei was puzzled. She began to think that Tu Shirqi was wrong. Shi Yan opened his mouth to explain. However, at this moment, a voluptuous body approached him. Under the firing gaze of Telika and Yerberg, Mei Ji wound her snow-white arm around him and leaned against his body. Her charming face was filled with lecherous gleams as she seduced him. Of course, it's the most intimate one. Shi Yan was surprised. He looked at Mei Ji at his chest awkwardly. He shifted his eyes to frown at Ling Mei in front of him. There was a flash in his eyes as he understood it. Meiji and Ling Mei didn't get along well. They were the leaders of the Phantom Clan and mysterious Sky Clan in the sea domain of Nihility. After a long time, these two women must have encountered each other a lot. Ling Mei had received news from Tu Shiqi to recruit Shi Yan. She had expressed their opinions, and Meiji had overheard that. Perhaps she didn't want to show up early. Because of Ling Mei, she was forced to appear earlier to compete with Ling Mei. That's why she had to lean against him like this. A series of thoughts flashed in his head. Shi Yan smiled and then pulled Meiji to his chest, not trying to be polite. Feeling her soft body stiff, he grinned evilly and inwardly. However, he still held a stern face and said, "She's my woman." His statement was earth-shaking. Not only Ling Mei but Farlow, Telika, and Yerberg were also dumbstruck. They looked at Shi Yan as if he was an incredible monster. Was it true? Everybody knew that Batum had declared that Meiji would be his woman in this sea of annihilation. No one dared to claim her. Otherwise, Batum would absolutely hunt him down. Even the superiors of the Phantom Clan had discreetly agreed. They were waiting for Meiji to yield. After Batum had reached the territory ancestor realm, they were going to announce this to the other clans. Today, a kid at First Sky of Immortal Realm had the guts to hug Meiji and claim her as his woman. Did he want to turn everything upside down? Meiji wore a stiff face for a moment. However, she resumed shortly and smiled like a flower. "Right, this is my man, Meiji's real man." "Damn you, kid. It's you who courts death. You dare to exploit me. Wait for Batum to mince you." She could feel Shi Yan's big and rough hand squeeze and rub her butt cheeks. Meiji's body stiffened. She secretly gritted her white teeth and cursed Shi Yan. "Meiji, are you kidding?" Ling Mei was surprised. "Everybody knows that you and Batum being together is inevitable. If you do that, you will trouble Shi Yan and yourself altogether. Are you sure?" She turned to Shi Yan and said solemnly, "I guess you don't know the thing between her and Batum. Batum has dark energy. He's at the peak of Immortal Realm, and he's just a step away from the Territory Ancestor Realm. He's the sort of man who would seek revenge for the slightest grudge. If he knows this, you will have to struggle a lot." The corners of Shi Yan's mouth twitched slightly, but he was still calm and silent. He had prepared. After he found Audrey and located the territory entrance, they were going to return to desolate territory immediately. He didn't know if he would return to sea domain of Nihility again. Even if he did return, he wouldn't be at his current realm when that happened. If so, why would he be afraid of that Batum? Chapter 1421 The Ruins Under the Sea. Chapter 1421 The Ruins Under the Sea. Ling Mei looked at Shi Yan deep in his eyes, as she didn't know what he was thinking in his mind. Suddenly she asked, "What do you think about our mysterious Sky Clan?" "I consider Tu Shiqi and Yun as precursors. I appreciate them a lot. Anyway, I don't plan to become the non-native officer of the mysterious Sky Clan." "I'm sorry," said Shi Yan. He had followed Meiji to Babel because he wanted to eliminate Ling Mei's idea. He knew what Ling Mei thought. From Tu Shiqi, Ling Mei knew his value. Just like Tu Shiqi, she hoped to recruit him to the mysterious Sky Clan so that he could become a strong non-native officer of the mysterious Sky Clan and work for them in the future. Tu Shiqi had discussed this with Shi Yan and asked him to consider. He didn't want to join any force. "I understand." Ling Mei nodded indifferently. "I'll tell Tu Shiqi your decision. But I have to remind you something. There's something you shouldn't say rashly. Batum isn't a nice guy. He will kill you." "Thank you for reminding me," said Shi Yan honestly. Of course. He knew things between Meiji and Batum. He didn't plan to stay in the Sea of Annihilation for a long time. Unless Batum could break through to the Territory Ancestor Realm soon, with his magical power Upanishads, Yen could run away if he couldn't resist. Ha ha! Mei Ji laughed gently and quietly moved from Yen to prevent him from further exploiting her. If he wants to join a force, of course, he will join our phantom clan. Ling Mei, don't think about it. Ling Mei snorted and turned around to look at the area with the green bubbles. Ling Mei frowned. What happened? Farlow, Yerberg, and Telika didn't answer. When they recalled that moment, they became restless. Let me explain. Yen intervened one more time. Ling Mei and Mei Ji turned to him. This is what happened. Sure, Yen briefed them the situation. These three have excellent divine weapons. That's how they escaped. Otherwise, they would have suffered the same consequences. Pausing for a while, he turned to Farlow. There's an evil soul consciousness from deep under the sea. I think she knows clearly. You should ask her for more details. I don't know the situation. Farlow kept a cold face. The absolute beginning vestige is right under those green bubbles. If you want to search, go there. But you'd better be prepared. You don't want to encounter what we had experienced badly. Everybody quieted down. Is it really dangerous? Whispered Meiji. Yan's face was heavy. Not something normally dangerous. If you want to get in there, you should equip some treasures or power Upanishads that could stop the soul invasion. Otherwise, you shouldn't go there recklessly. As soon as he said that, Meiji's expression was also heavy. How could you get here? Farlow's team came here because they had the right direction. Meiji was sure that Yen didn't know about the vestige thing. But now he was here. Meiji couldn't reason why. Of course. Yen wouldn't tell her that he had followed the call from deep under the sea to get here. He made an excuse. I just wanted to check around to see if I'm lucky. Then I saw those sneaky people. As I didn't have anything to do, I secretly followed them here. He changed the topic, his face dark. How about you? How could you come here? I knew you came to the seabed. I was worried, so I went after you. I met Ling Mei's team along the way. I followed her until this area, said Meiji with a smile. They exchanged looks as they knew that they were hiding things from each other. However, they were wise enough not to ask for more. What to do now? Telika looked at Farlow. Should we retreat or wait for a while? Yerberg was alone here. He also hesitated because he knew that he couldn't do anything here. If he couldn't get through that area, waiting here was just a waste of his time. Shortly, Farlow, Telika, and Yerberg had made up their mind. They decided to leave and follow the old way to return. A strange change happened right at this moment. The dried corpses inside the green bubbles exploded all of a sudden. A kind of dark and bizarre energy expanded and sank deeper to the seabed. Shortly after, the vast area was no longer full of green bubbles. Yerberg was closest to that area. He moved directly. He didn't find any danger. With a shocked face, he immediately barged into the area and bent his body to observe the underneath. Countless green bubbles sank rapidly. The exploded corpses had become pure energy that fell like light dots. Those light dots were like stars in the sky. While they were falling, they had become magical absolute beginning symbols. It seemed like the green bubbles were the eye of some formation. While it was falling, somewhere deep into the seabed suddenly glowed in brilliant halos. Deep under the sea, a group of vague but grand buildings emerged. Everybody was bewildered. They looked at Yerberg and then observed underneath to see the vague lines of many buildings. At the same time, Yan's mind was shaking hard. He could feel the urgent call from deep in the seabed. It was the unique whining call of the absolute beginning creatures. He had heard it from Hui. Today, that voice came directly into his sea of consciousness. That voice was too vague to get the message. Sure, Ian guessed that someone wanted him to go to the seabed. He discolored and hesitated for the first time. He didn't know what was down there. If it was an absolute beginning creature, no one here could be able to resist. Even if it was a weak, absolute beginning creature, still, no one here would be able to resist its attack. From the tragic death of those members of the ancient monster clan and black demon clan, Shi Yan was sure that if there was an absolute beginning creature, it didn't have any good intention. At his realm, if the absolute beginning creature aimed at him, he would be killed faster. Even if he had space power Upanishad, he couldn't save himself. Should he go there? Come here. What are you waiting for? Meiji waved at him and looked thrilled. The absolute beginning vestige is down there. I saw a grand palace. Although it's vague, I'm sure it's colossal. Shi Yan pondered and gritted his teeth as he decided to go and check. Once things went wrong, he would retreat immediately. Although he thought so, he didn't dare to go directly. He began to arrange something. The sea water around him foamed and created a bubble. Shi Yan used his space power Upanishad to check for a while. When he confirmed he could still teleport here, he exhaled in relief. Then he moved toward Meiji. The bloody scene was now calm. People lingered there for a while. Eventually, they couldn't help but start to sink. The water pressure suddenly increased. Their light protection was pressed and got deformed. Gradually, Shi Yan felt suffocated. While lowering to the seabed, it felt like he had a mountain on his back pressing on his bones. His entire body ached. He turned to Meiji. Meiji was fine. The light cave protecting her body was pressed toward her perfect body, but it wasn't affected too much. Pondering for a while, he was about to urge the power of his blood to transform. Come here. Go with me. It'll be fine for a while, said Meiji. Shi Yan was bewildered. He smiled and didn't deny her offer. He flew toward her, and the radiant, colorful light cage parted to let him in. It also swelled up to make more room. The two of them squeezed in the egg-like light protection, their shoulders touching. Shi Yan could take in the charming fragrance of her body, and he could feel her voluptuous body's heat. You know Batum? Asked Meiji. Shi Yan was surprised and shook his head. No, I don't. Don't lie to me. Meiji hissed through her gritted teeth. When Ling Mei mentioned Batum, you didn't look surprised. I'm sure you know him from Yulien. I'm curious. If you know Batum's realm, why did you tease me? You're not afraid of death? If I can make you mine, it's worth my death. Shi Yan shrugged. You know that's impossible, Meiji giggled. The aura on her body gradually became cold. It meant that she was still cold as usual. Well, you proactively leaned against me. I think no normal man can resist that. If I refused, how embarrassed would you be? Shi Yan was calm and said, I don't care who Batum is. Anyway, after I found Audrey, I will leave the Sea of Annihilation and the Sea Domain of Nihility. Even if Batum is invincible, how can he trouble me? You want to leave? To desolate territory? Meiji suddenly had a gleam of sadness in her heart. I've not done with you yet, and you say you're leaving. Done. Shi Yan pulled a cold face and turned to her. He didn't try to be polite. Perhaps you've forgotten the lessons, but you should know that with your current condition, you still need a little more to trouble me. It's true that I'm not fully recovered. Anyway, do you think that I don't have any solution? Meiji was enraged. Shi Yan snorted and didn't quarrel with her. He pulled himself together to observe the underneath. A massive light dome like an arch of heaven slowly emerged. The area under that dome was grand and imposing like an ancient ruin. As the light dome was protecting them, the ruins weren't soaked in seawater. The light dome had so many bloodlines, which were like connected ditches. A pungent smell invaded their nostrils. Shi Yan frowned and observed. He was startled when he found it. Those bloodlines are bloody streaks of the warriors who were killed recently. It's some sort of blood sacrifice. It requires blood to activate the light dome. You mean we can get in there? The green bubbles disappeared because of those who were killed earlier? Their blood was enough to activate this thing? Mate G caught the keywords. Shiryen nodded. How did you know that? Meiji was so surprised. Intuition, said Shiryen. It was actually his intuition. Looking at the light dome as big as the arch of the sky and the ancient buildings that were now in ruins, Shiryen had a familiar feeling. Sure, Yen had glanced at the blood streaks on a light dome, and somehow he knew that some sort of blood sacrifice was needed to activate that thing. This feeling was strange, but Shiryen thought it was true. Chapter 1422. Penetrate. Chapter 1422. Penetrate. Shiryen and Meiji continued to sink deeper. This light dome looks really vast. This ruin is really colossal. It's so amazing. Meiji frowned and observed the area beneath through her light cage. She turned to Shiryen. Do you feel better now? Shiryen smiled. The water pressure is so formidable. You've been in this sea of annihilation for many years. You must have gone down here several times. Why didn't you find this vestige? I've explained it to you. The Sea of Annihilation can be as vast as an entire territory. I can't endure the pressure at the deepest area. It's true that I often move around undersea, and I found some strange areas, but it's the first time I saw such colossal ruins that are like this. Meiji pulled herself together and glanced at Ling Mei. I don't get along with that woman. We have competed many times in this Sea of Annihilation. I hope you don't establish any relationship with her. What kind of relationship can I establish with her? Shiryen felt funny. You better not. Ling Mei is the expert in charge of the Sea of Annihilation of the mysterious Sky Clan. We've been competing for a long time, but I can hardly defeat her. This time, I have to defeat her once. Meiji was resolute. While talking, her milky breast shook and made enchanting, seducing waves. Shiryen's eyes became hot as he grinned. His line of sight fell on the cleavage between her breasts. I'm some kind of key point in the battle between you guys. Yes, Meiji didn't deny. She admitted naturally. Since we were in Dragon Lizard Star, Tu Shirchi and Yin have tried to create a good relationship with you. I think they know you have dark energy too, right? Shiryen nodded. I knew it. If you didn't have dark energy, which ensures your breakthrough to the Territory Ancestor Realm later, how could they appreciate you that much? Ling Mei is the same. She expects to recruit you to be the non-native officer of the mysterious Sky Clan. That's how they will try to get one more Territory Ancestor Realm expert. Meiji sighed sadly. To the 7 great clans, competing for experts is crucial, and recruiting the Territory Ancestor Realm experts is the fiercest competition. A Territory Ancestor Realm expert can even change the general competence of one of the 7 clans. My clan didn't care about Batum's bad reputation, and they are willing to sacrifice me to recruit him. It's because he'll definitely enter the Territory Ancestor Realm. Then why don't you sacrifice yourself and marry Batum to increase your Phantom clan's competencies? Shiryen didn't smile and looked at her nonchalantly. You're so dedicated to the Phantom clan. For the clan's welfare, it is logical for you to give yourself up to it, right? You want me to marry Batum? Meiji suddenly quieted down. After a long moment, she asked with a cold face, It has nothing to do with me. My feelings can affect you. I'm just curious, Shiryen said calmly. You don't want it. It's obvious. Why don't you dare to violate your clan's rule? Meiji's face was bitter. She shook her head and said in agony, I can't turn my back to my clan. Also, I don't dare to lose my clan's protection. Why? Asked Shiryen. What I got today is all because of my clan. My family is there. Also, I've done many things for my clan lately. I've killed many people. They want my life. As I'm with my clan, they don't dare to attack me. If I leave the Phantom clan, I can't live in peace, sighed Meiji. If Batum breaks through to the Territory Ancestor Realm fast, what will you do when he asks your clan to fulfill the promise? Asked Shiryen. I don't know. I really don't know, and I don't dare to think too much about it. Mei Ji's charming face was filled with puzzlement. She herself didn't have an answer. Sure, Yen didn't ask further. They had landed above the light curtain. The light curtain was like an arch of a sky covering the ruins beneath and preventing the sea water from getting through. This light curtain had a lot of magical absolute beginning tadpole symbols, which were moving and wiggling as if they had a life and consciousness. The blood streaks scattered here and there on the light curtain. Shi Yen focused and found that he couldn't see where the light curtain ended. 5 colors waves rippled from the light curtain and expanded toward Shi Yen. He was a little shocked. So many waves swarmed toward him and made him restless. He couldn't help but get out of Mei Ji's light protection. While Mei Ji was still frightened, he smiled comfortably as the water pressure seemed to vanish into thin air. He quietly watched here and there. Except for him, the others were all acting gingerly. They looked as if they were facing great enemies. Still, they hovered far away from those ripples. Seeing the waves hit Shi Yen, but still be comfortable, he even smiled and the others relaxed their tense nerves. A man in black armor from the mysterious Sky Clan, standing by Ling, Mei deliberately reached out and caught a coming purple wave. He screeched painfully. Everybody looked at him in fear. They saw the flesh on his arm melt and leave only a piece of white bone. The light purple wave swarmed over and covered him entirely. Shortly after, he was no longer breathing because he was now a white skeleton falling into the bright light curtain. His frame became bone dust and blended with the seawater washing away. Ling Mei couldn't help but scream ear-piercingly, "Move! All of you! Get away!" Except for Shi Yen, the others didn't need her to remind them. All retreated away as if they saw a ghost in daylight. They were all pale as they looked at those colorful waves. All of them looked aghast. Now, only Shi Yen stood there inside the ripples. He didn't even look a bit troubled. Farlo, Telika, Ling Mei, Yerberg, and Mei Ji stiffened. They looked at him as if they were watching a monster. Mei Ji was bewildered for a while and then said, "Shi Yen, why are you still okay?" Shi Yen had seen the brutal accident happen to that member of the mysterious Sky Clan. He knew why people were skeptical, but he didn't explain. Grinning, he immediately plunged through the light curtain. Magically, the light curtain seemed to make a slit for Shi Yen to go through. On the light curtain, the waves rippled and expanded. Ling Mei and Mei Ji were so wary of them. They couldn't help but retreat, trying to use their power Upanishad to break and prevent the terrible attack from the colorful waves. Mei Ji, you know him well. Do you know what he did to get through the danger? Yerberg screamed. Mei Ji frowned. I just asked, but he didn't answer. I'm like you guys. I don't know anything. What makes him different from the rest of us? Asked Farlo of the Black Demon Clan. I heard that this man has a wisp of the soul of an absolute beginning creature. It's what I got. Yerberg initially told the others what he knew. He understands the powers of the dark energy, hesitating for a while. Ling Mei told the piece of information she had. As everybody wanted to intrude the ruins beneath, they had to find a solution to deal with those ripples. Thus, Ling Mei didn't want to conceal anything. She also wanted to find a solution. Fused with a wisp of the absolute beginning creature's soul. A warrior with dark energy? Farlo looked shocked. He's at just first sky of a mortal realm. Mind-blowing, right? Mei Ji parted her lips into a smile. It's true. When I found that out, I was shaken too. Anyway, there are more shocking things. He got dark energy when he was at Incipient God Realm, anyway. Have you ever heard about anyone at Incipient God Realm get dark energy? Listening to her, Ling Mei shivered. Finally, she knew why Tu Shirqi had sent her such a strange message. Tu Shirqi had told her to try her best to recruit Shi Yen. Even if she couldn't make Shi Yen the non-native officer of the mysterious Sky Clan, she had to be able to create a good relationship with him. She should not offend him, and she should offer help whenever she could. After receiving the news, Ling Mei was bewildered. She thought that Tu Shih and his wife just made a fuss over something trivial. Today, she knew how Tu Shih and his wife could stand tall and see far. Mei Ji and the others were bound outside. Under the light curtain, Yan slowly descended. It was like he had gotten through a layer of clouds to enter a whole new world. Everywhere in this world was a ruin. Even though they were ruins, they stood as tall and grand as a mountain. They were conical buildings made of an unknown stone material. Everything in his vision was the broken ancient buildings. A strange energy wandered around his body and got into his sea of consciousness. That energy came from the ripples. The reason why he wasn't hurt was because those ripples were actually dark energy. As his body was tamed with dark energy, he could absorb it. Dark energy was a sort of negative energy. It was very different from other kinds of common energy. However, Yan's body wasn't affected. He lifted his head to see Ling Mei. Mei Ji and the others fluttered as he grinned. Concentrating, he released his co-soul and sensed the aura or something that was calling him. Shortly after, he got his direction. Yan didn't mind the others, who were very astounded on the other side of the light curtain, heading toward an area. He was slow at first. Gradually, he accelerated. Deep undersea, Audrey was heading toward the vestige. Innumerable souls covered her like a big black cloak. Why do you suddenly want to go deep undersea? Ming Hong turned into a ghostly shadow and floated on her should. He was using power to make departed spirits and brutal souls cover her, saving her from the formidable water pressure. A voice is calling me constantly, said Audrey. A voice. Ming Hong was panicked. Perhaps it's related to some absolute beginning creature. Audrey didn't conceal it. You know, I've fused with the origin of the God-blessed mainland. Yeah, it's like fusing with a part of desolate. Ming Hong was excited when he heard Audrey said that. It should be something mysterious from the absolute beginning era. I think so, Audrey chuckled. Shortly after, Audrey had reached the light curtain with countless radiant ripples. With a strange light flaring in her eyes, she released her soul consciousness to check around. Sizzle, sizzle. Her soul consciousness melted when it touched the waves. What a powerful defense! Ming Hong screamed in surprise. Hey! All of a sudden, a voice called from afar. A silhouette dashed rapidly and reached Audrey in almost a blink of an eye. Oh, you! It's you! Audrey and Mei Ji screamed in astonishment. Chapter 1423 Meet Old Friends. Chapter 1423 Meet Old Friends _ Dozens of thousands of gray souls hovered around Audrey like innumerable clusters of clouds. It looked like she was wearing a long fishtail dress with souls like waves on the hem and scales on the body of her dress. Each of those souls emitted a dangerous aura. The 7 brutal souls had resized and turned into precious armor on her shoulders, waist, and back. If one didn't look carefully, he couldn't recognize them. Especially at her left shoulder, Ming Hong was just as big as a small palm. He crouched, so people thought he was just a small flower decorating her dress. However, at first glance, Mei Ji knew what it was. After screaming, Mei Ji had strange light in her eyes. She immediately lowered her voice and said in astonishment, Sing had refined dozens of thousands of souls, and even 7 brutal souls for several thousand years. You got them all? Mei Ji discolored before Audrey answered because she suddenly recognized another possibility. She acted as if she was facing the archenemy. Ice began to appear on her body. You're Sing, aren't you? She hissed and felt panic-stricken. Audrey had only incipient god realm cultivation base. She was the most suitable object for Sing to possess. With dozens of souls gathering around her, Sing could have robbed Audrey's soul. I'm not him. Audrey was surprised, but she acted fast. She turned to look at Ming Hong and felt lucky. Without Ming Hong, a precursor in her clan at incipient God realm, even if she could use all of her power, she couldn't absorb dozens of thousands of souls that Sing had spent thousands of years to tame and refine. She wouldn't have had such a marvelous encounter. Prove it, Meiji was cautious. She doesn't need to do that, Ming Hong snorted. His small body was swelling like a balloon. Shortly after, he became more than 100 meters tall and hovered, like a demogorgon above Audrey's head. This woman is hurt badly. She hasn't recovered yet. The 6 brutal souls, and I can deal with her, or even kill her. Ming Hong's voice arose in Audrey's head and told her his competence. Of course, Meiji couldn't hear him. Anyway, seeing Ming Hong transform, she knew that he didn't mean good. Her thoughts flickered and she reacted. You thought that I killed Shi Yan and refined the absolute beginning soul in his soul. I don't think so, Audrey shook her head. You're powerful, but it's not easy to deal with Shi Yan. Anyway, I don't sense his aura on you. Thus, he must be still alive. You aren't Sing, Meiji was surprised. From Audrey's tone, she could guess her real identity. Pondering, she sighed. You're right. I can't refine that rascal. He's right down there. He asked me to find you. Underneath. Yeah, right in the ruins under the light curtain. Only he could get through it. We're stopped here. See those ripples? They're too fatal. We haven't had a solution to dissolve it yet. While they were talking, Ling Mei, Farlow, and Yerberg were using their powers and secret weapons to attack the light protection. The cold blue light stabbed the light dome. Hundreds of small boxes moved like the fish arraying a formation. Then all the boxes opened. Thunder reverberated grumblingly. Boom! 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 Thunder roared and sounded like a massive hammer pounding on the light dome. The fatal ripples exploded and created a hole. Telika nodded, but he actually felt painful inwardly. Lightning flashed. Then, so many lightning balls emerged from the incipient extent above his head before he retrieved the boxes. It was a secret treasure that the territory ancestor realm precursor in his clan had awarded him when he had broken through to the immortal realm. It was so strong, but he couldn't use it continuously. It was his life protection treasure anyway. While trapped in those green bubbles, he had used this treasure to escape. He had used it once. And today, to eliminate the dangerous waves, he had to use it again. He successfully created a crack on the light dome. As soon as the crack appeared, Telika hadn't reacted yet when Yerberg grinned and plunged through the crack first. The black armored men of the mysterious Sky clan behind Ling Mei also wanted to jump into the ruins. Ling Mei rose one hand to stop them and said earnestly, "Don't rush. Let him go first to check." They halted and appraised their leader for being cautious. They knew that this area was so strange and malicious. That's why their leader had to be Ginger. They then watched Yerberg. Yerberg got through the crack, smoothly. Nothing dangerous happened to him. Go. Go. Now. Ling Mei's eyes brightened. Her hot body moved like a flame and dashed faster than Farlow, storming toward the seabed. Farlow and the members of the mysterious Sky clan followed her closely through the crack, one after another. We should get in there first. We'll talk about it later. While Meiji was talking to Audrey, she still paid attention to the others. Seeing Yerberg worm through the crack, she knew that they had made some progress. She talked to Audrey and then turned into an icy light, shooting toward the crack. Audrey didn't say much. She hurried to follow Meiji. Shadows like arrows got through the crack to enter the world under the light dome. Several seconds after Audrey disappeared, the crack closed. The ripples that had just exploded flooded over and fixed the crack. The light dome closed one more time. Dash. Following the call in his soul, Shi Yan was moving through the vast ruins on the seabed. He glided above the grand, colossal buildings, which looked as small as the rocks. The world inside the light dome was even wider than an entire life star. Sher Yan's released soul consciousness reported to him a vast area, which seemed to not have borders. The call in his soul sounded pretty close. However, when he was pursuing it, it turned to be a great distance. A wisp of soul consciousness was sent to the heavenly fantasy star compass. Checking the time measurement, he was surprised. After entering the light curtain, he had continuously flown without a single second of resting. With the speed of a warrior with space power Upanishad like him, he had flown for half a month. After half a month flying crazily without a moment for rest, he could get through half of the entire agate star area. However, he hadn't reached the location of the call, which sounded within a reach in his mind. The world under the light dome was indeed immensely vast. He had spent his efforts traveling for 15 days. He didn't have time to observe the colossal buildings underneath. Also, as he hadn't noticed those ancient ruins, he didn't know they were built in many strange shapes. An egg, a cone, a tower, and something bizarre. They were really different. Sometimes something shimmered deep in those ruins. It seemed like there was a cold metal piece there. In a short glimpse, when he glided over, he could catch their light. Sure, Yen didn't mind them much. Time flew as fast as the shutter. 5 days passed like a blink of an eye. Sher Yen halted and looked ahead as he couldn't subside his surprised countenance. A massive building stood, like a soul altar with hundreds of floors. Those floors stacked up and created a building like a 10,000-meter high mountain. This ancient building had countless windows, and each of them was large, though. Also, surprisingly, it was well preserved. There was no discernible damage. The archaic, soul altar-like building was shimmering in a metal gold light. Countless magical tadpole symbols were like billions of fish swimming on the building unceasingly. However, at a closer look, even though there were billions of symbols, all of them were the same. They were an unknown, absolute beginning word. Billions of identical symbols were moving around the walls of the massive, mountain-like building. The building looked like a huge fortress that reached the sky. While the symbols were moving, they lit up the entire building and glowed in a cold halo that could threaten the souls. Sure, Yen looked at the building from a far distance. He shivered, his eyes strange. The energy that fluctuated the call came from those billions of symbols. While they were swimming around, the call ran directly into his sea of consciousness. An archaic sound that was replaying endlessly shook his co-soul on the tier of heaven flames. This vibrant call had burst his heaven flames. Thud! Thud! 2 sounds of the rock being lifted arose from the ruins beside the ancient building, but they weren't really loud. Sher Yen was sensitive enough to check it. Discoloring, he pulled himself to observe the area, which was relatively close to him. The 2 persons that shouldn't be here emerged from the pile of rocks. They lifted their heads and screamed in fear, Sher Yen. God, Lord Brian, Ming Hao. Sher Yen was so frightened that his heart almost jumped out of his chest. Brian, the chief of the God clan, and Ming Hao, the sole control chief of the bloodthirsty force. Hui had used its supernatural power to teleport them away. And now they emerged from the piles of rocks under this ancient building. It was unimaginable. Why are you here? Why are you 2 here? Sher Yen, the God Lord, and Ming Hao had screamed at the same time. They were so dumbstruck, and they felt that this was really weird. We've been trapped here all the time. Ming Hao pondered for a few seconds. He stood on the rocks, still in his soul form. While he was talking, he lifted his head to look at the colossal building with countless swimming, absolute beginning symbols. He said with respect, "We weren't here at first. Brian had received a call, so we tracked it down and came here. We want to solve this riddle. Anyway, after dozens of years, we couldn't figure out anything. You also got the soul call." Sher Yen was baffled. Brian, the God Lord, was sitting cross-legged. He glanced at Sher Yen, his eyes strange. It turns out you came here because of the call too. Perhaps it's because the memory I got from fusing with Desolate wasn't enough to decode this mystery. Perhaps after I kill you and get your soul, I can get into the ancient building." He got up immediately. "Ming Hao, do you want to get trapped here forever or get out of here? If you want to leave, don't stop me from killing this kid. I want his co-soul. You can have his host soul and his devouring power Upanishad. What do you think?" Chapter 1424. I don't dare to make that step. Chapter 1424. I don't dare to make that step. Anuswar. The god, Lord Brian, stood up. His eyes had the light of the sun, moon, and the stars, his body radiating brilliant lights. He looked like a light angel. He turned to Ming Hao, his face nonchalant. "You and I've been trapped here for so many years. Our territory is at its most critical time. Maybe Hui is invading us. If you don't want to see only a blank void when we go home, and if you don't want to see all the races killed, you know what to choose." Pausing for a while, Brian took a deep breath. "There's something you know already. If our territory is destroyed, and if we kill Desolate, all the creatures that Desolate has created, and all the souls that were born in Desolate territory would perish in just a blink. You and I can never escape the bind of fate. Unless we can reach the immortal realm soon. There's another way to survive, perhaps." The archaic building was emitting cold light. Ming Hao was just as big as an ant on the rock compared to the colossal building. He frowned and contemplated. Shi Yan knew that Ming Hao was hesitant. He was considering the god Lord's suggestion. Being trapped for dozens of years, Ming Hao knew that the complete ancient building would be the key for them to leave this place. Brian the God Lord had the origin of the ancient God continent, which was also a wisp of desolate soul. As he came here following the call, it would be the key to unlock this area. The God Lord's suggestion was tempting. Brian wanted Shi Yan's co-soul, and he was willing to give up the host soul with the marvelous devouring power Upanishad, which helped him receive Bloodthirsty's inheritance. It was a lie if he said he wasn't tempted. However, Ming Hao still hesitated. Shi Yan was the heir that Bloodthirsty had chosen. He was the new master of this generation. He also had the origin of the ancient continent. He had qualifications to decode the mysteries of this ancient building too. Joining hands with Shi Yan to kill the God Lord and let him discover the building was another option. However, this option was going to be tough. He knew how powerful the God Lord was. He had fought against the God Lord for many years in this area. He knew him well. Even if he got Shi Yan on his side now, he wasn't so sure about the success rate. He hesitated and switched his line of sight from the God Lord to Shi Yan. Suddenly, his face stiffened as he pried. Immortal realm? Dozens of years passed since we had thrown them here, but it had not been 100 years yet. Shi Yan had advanced a big step to the immortal realm. Ming Hao was astounded indeed. The God Lord also found this. He discolored slightly. As you can break through to the immortal realm in just a short time, if I don't kill you now, I won't get a chance later. He then turned to Ming Hao. It's my chance. This is also your chance. If you let it go, you will have to serve him for the rest of your life. The same thing happened 10,000 years ago. You had to serve Bloodthirsty, and you will have to serve him. Ming Hao, I understand you. I know who you are. What makes you hesitant? Ming Hao, I've met Ming Hong. He's alive. He has been in the sea domain of nihility all the time. And now he is fused with Audrey, said Shi Yan all of a sudden. Ming Hao was shaken. He's still alive. Ming Hao, kill him. When you get his soul, you can search through his memories, said the God Lord coldly. Is it really hard to leave this place? If so, how could I come here easily? Said Shi Yan. Ming Hao lifted his head and looked at Shi Yan. Didn't we send you here? This time, the God Lord was also surprised. I came here from the sea of annihilation through the light curtain. Above us is the Sea of Annihilation, the most lively and bustling area of the sea domain of nihility, with hundreds of races, said Shi Yin calmly. Ming, Hao, and the god lord's eyes brightened. Do you know the location of the entrance to our territory? Shi Yin was moved. Of course, yes. Ming Hao looked at the massive building behind him and the light curtain above their heads. If we can get out of this place, I can find the territory and trance to go back. If you can get in here, you can get out too. Anyway, the two of us have tried. No matter what we do, we can't break the light curtain above. Also, the key to opening the light curtain is possibly in there. He pointed at the ancient building in front of them. What does it say? It's an absolute beginning word. What does it mean? Ask Shi Yin. Ask him, frowned Ming Hao. Shi Yin turned to the God Lord. You fused with the heaven flame more than me. I've traveled through the sea domain of nihility. I know one thing. If you can fuse all the heaven flames, you can finally open the soul of the absolute beginning creature and get to know the secret of the old times. You can understand the absolute beginning languages, and you can comprehend dark energy too. If all the heaven flames are merged into one, I can learn dark energy. Brian interrupted him excitedly. He suddenly shouted, Who told you that? The experts of the 7 great clans in the sea domain of nihility. They all agree with that. Some know that I have a wisp of the soul of an absolute beginning creature, so they've chased after me. They want to take my soul to break through the territory ancestor realm, explained Shi Yin. Territory ancestor realm. Ming Hao and the god lord looked at each other. After the immortal realm, it's the territory ancestor realm. Bloodthirsty should be a territory ancestor expert. Dark energy is the key to break through. Shi Yin was surprised that the 2 supreme experts in desolate territory, the highest existences, didn't know about this realm. Now he knew how isolated the desolate territory was and how far it had drifted away from sea domain of nihility. I've been dedicatedly studying Bloodthirsty's remains for 10,000 years. I had never thought about fusing the heaven flame completely. I was steered incorrectly from the start. It turns out that the correct way was right inside me. It's not fun at all. Brian didn't know if he should smile or cry. His face became strange. I've been to the sea domain of nihility for many years, but I haven't met any creature. I thought that the sea domain of nihility was really a place of nothing. Why could you meet a lot of people? Ming Hao was skeptical. Shi Yin couldn't explain that. He didn't know that Ming Hong had the answer they needed, either. The route those precursors had taken was derived from the center of the sea domain of nihility to somewhere remote and unknown. Of course, they couldn't meet any high-level, free creatures in this vast sea of stars. I don't know. When you meet Ming Hong, you can ask him. Shi Yin shook his head. I'm still one step away from fusing all the heaven flames. Recently, I've always restrained myself not to make that step. The god lord looked at the building with the unknown symbols, his face reluctant. What are you afraid of? Asked Shi Yin. As you've said, after I've completely fused with the heaven flames, I can trigger the memory of the soul to understand dark energy. At my realm, I can reach the territory ancestor realm successfully. I can understand the absolute beginning languages too. Anyway, I'm not sure if I will still be me if that happens. What do you mean? Ming Hao changed his visage. Is it what it has been waiting for the whole time? For me to finally fuse with its soul completely? Will I become part of it and lose myself completely? When that happens, who can tell if I will be just a part of its soul and its soul will swallow me completely? It has been several years, and I still don't have the guts to make that step. I'm hesitant because of this, the god lord whispered. Ming Hao knitted his brows. Shi Yin looked pensive. He understood the god lord's concerns. In fact, what the god lord was concerned about was also his issue. He was worried that one day, when the Kosal finally fused all the heaven flames, he would lose himself instantly. The origin of grace, mainland, would replace him. However, he didn't have deep thoughts like the God Lord. I want to ask you, how many souls do you have? Asked Shi Yen. Of course, only one. The God Lord replied and then said, I know you have 2 souls. You're not like us. The devouring power Upanishad that you have is too evil. You're desolates, archenemy. If you hadn't had the Kosal, your soul would have been swallowed by the origin of grace mainland. The God Lord's eyes brightened. His heart beat faster when he thought about something. He knew what Shi Yen was going to say next. Indeed. Shi Yen smiled straightforwardly. Then why do you want to kill me? Even if you kill me to get my soul, you still have only one soul. You will still be afraid because you don't know what will happen when you stimulate the soul with the origin. You don't know if you will be replaced or not. You're scared, but I'm not. I have 2 souls. I have more options than you. Even if it happens as you say, I will at most lose my Kosal, and that won't kill me. Ming Hao understood. He turned to the God Lord and said, If you are afraid, we can let him try it first. Let him fuse with the heaven flames and see what will happen. We don't know how long it will take until he completely fuses all the heaven flames. I've been waiting for 10,000 years, snorted the God Lord. I still have 2 flows of heaven flames to fuse. I think it won't take up to 1 billion years, grinned Shi Yen. The God Lord kept silent. After a long time, he sat back on his pile of rocks. Maybe I should wait longer. He was still afraid. He was afraid that he would be replaced by the ancient God continent's origin after he had merged all the heaven flames. A long, long time ago, Bloodthirsty's last words had told him that he was just a pawn of Desolate. He was just a pawn to kill Bloodthirsty. He could feel Desolate's power every minute in his territory. Because he was aware of Desolate's existence, he knew how terrible it was. Thus, he was scared. Also, he had spent 10,000 years studying Bloodthirsty's remains. Headed this as he wanted to learn dark energy. He didn't dare to make the final step. From some aspect, he thought Bloodthirsty was right, so what he said had affected him for 10,000 years. Of course, if he fused with the last heaven flame to perceive dark energy and reach the territory ancestor realm, but was still himself and not replaced by the origin of the ancient God continent, there would be nothing to discuss. If that happened, Bloodthirsty's last words were just a lie to harm him. That expert had arranged him another match that had held him back for 10,000 years, making him stuck at the peak of a mortal realm. The God Lord couldn't guess what would happen. He had to wait until Shi Yen had fused the heaven flame to guess and to know Bloodthirsty's real intentions. Chapter 1425. It is life. Chapter 1425. It is life. Go there and see if you can break the light curtain. While Brian the God Lord was sinking in his thoughts, Ming Hao suggested to Shi Yen to soar up into the sky. Shi Yen nodded and didn't think too much about it. He floated up and flew to the light dome that looked like the sky. After a while, he was hovering right below the light curtain. Observing the ground, he found ruins everywhere. Only the building where Ming Hao and the God Lord were in was intact. Turning into a starlight jet, he tried to pierce through the light curtain. Boom! It was like he had barged into an invisible rubber wall. His body was forced backward. He urged dark energy, hiding his body and storming forward again. Boom! He bounced back again. His body ached so hard that he thought his frame would break. Wincing, he frowned and assessed the light curtain. He found that the ripples were just outside. They didn't exist inside. The light curtain had stopped them. The sea water above the light curtain rolled and seethed. It looked like Shi Yan's impact had created that. A starlight saber stabbed the light curtain. Crack! The saber exploded and turned into a sprinkle of starlight dots. The light curtain stayed the same. He frowned and tried the sharp space saber this time. However, an unknown force had stimulated his energy and exploded it before he could form a space saber. After trying many times, Shiryan gradually lost hope. His face grew heavy. It's strange. It's like a one-way barrier. I've tried all my tricks, but I can't get through the light curtain. He returned to Ming, Hao, and Brian, his face strange. I guess you've tried everything you can in the dozens of years you were trapped here, right? Ming, Hao, and Brian grimaced when they heard him. They looked at the building covered with absolute beginning symbols and said nothing. After a while, Brian said coldly, "It seems like it's the key. We were right. If only we can explore this ancient building, we will find a way to leave." Ming Hao nodded to him as he also agreed with his conclusion. The ruins under the light curtain. As soon as Audrey landed, she didn't say anything but flew toward the direction of the call. It was also where Shiryan was. Mei Ji kept an eye on her. Seeing Audrey have a target, she had an idea to follow her silently. Ling, Mei, Farlow, and Yerberg landed in the middle of the ruins. They observed and became bewildered upon seeing the massive vestige. This place looks like an ancient city. Something happened and it became ruins. Yerberg walked around and found nothing precious. It's really massive. We should disperse. Perhaps we will find something. What do you think? Farlow and Ling Mei wore cold faces. Before they found something, they didn't want to start a dispute. They scattered and raked through the ruins with the hope of finding something. After an unknown time, a gray silhouette descended from the sky and landed by Farlow and Telika. He was extremely ugly and had a fat body like a meatball. His face had so many lumps like toad skin. Briefly speaking, he looked nauseating. This old, disgusting man had a pair of narrow eyes, which were sparkling a sinister light. He was holding a rhombus staff inlaid with a lot of precious gems. He landed, lifted his head, and said, "You can come now. There's no problem. Remember what you've promised me." As soon as he finished, Tate of the Soul clan laughed and slowly landed, followed by several members of his clan. An elderly woman from the Devouring clan with an erosive aura came after Tate. Her deep, turquoise eyes had a strange light as they were raking around like a venomous snake. Farlow and Telika discolored in fear. They panicked and looked at those who had just arrived. They had been in this vast vestige for several days without finding anything. Today, when they saw someone they knew, they were discreetly frightened. "Greetings, Precursor Batum." After being astonished for a while, Telika smiled and greeted the ugly fat old man. Batum was like a round ball that was even more loathsome than a toad. He rolled his eyes at Telika and grinned. "Black Demon Clan. You're fast. How are you doing? Did you find anything?" While talking, his eyes scanned Telika and Farlow as if he would rob them when he found something. Telika and Farlow were chilled. Instinctively, they moved backward. Telika said nothing. "There are only ruins here. We haven't found anything valuable." He rose his hands and continued, "Before we came here, we asked our Precursor for permission. He knows where we are. Precursor, don't trouble us." "How do you know I would trouble you guys?" Batum curled his lips, his face malicious and dark. "Mei Ji is here too," said Farlow all of a sudden. It was a good topic to shift Batum's focus. His narrow eyes brightened and he laughed vulgarly. "My woman is here." "Excellent. I've been trying to find her several times. She wasn't home. It turns out that she came to this place after she returned to the Sea of Annihilation. My woman is very active. She has good intelligence, too." "Don't waste our time," snorted the old woman of the Devouring clan. She impatiently rolled her eyes at Batum. Batum wore a cold face. "Tate invited me here. I'm not subjected to you. You shouldn't tell me what to do." "Precursors, please don't. Tate hurried to reconcile them. We have the same goal. Moreover, I have better information. We shouldn't have internal conflicts at this moment. To find this place, our Soul Clan has planned for years. Hundreds of warriors died. Today we finally got here. Don't start another battle before we find something. Batum and the devouring clanwoman didn't say more. They snorted and turned away. Farlow and Telika exchanged looks. They saw fear in each other's eyes. Finally, they knew they had just shallow information. For this vestige, the Soul Clan had sacrificed hundreds of warriors. They had planned this for years. Tate's teacher also came to the Sea of Annihilation this time. They didn't know why he had to come here, but now they knew. They finally realized that Tate's teacher came here because of this vestige. Then they turned to look around to find that old freak. However, they didn't see him. Where's my woman? Batum gazed at Telika. Telika forced a smile and shook his head. As soon as she came, she left. This place is so spacious. Who knows where she is? Your woman. Telika disdained him secretly, recalling when Shiryen and Meiji stated their relationship. He was waiting to see how outrageous Batum would be when he learned about that. He didn't dare to tell him now, as he was afraid that Batum wouldn't care about the Black Demon Clan and kill him and Farlow if he got enraged. Prioritize our business. Tate looked at the area ahead. We should reach the destination first. Batum and the old woman from the devouring clan nodded. Tate guided them toward the direction Audrey and Meiji had disappeared. Watching them hurry to leave, Farlow pondered for a while and then said, "It seems like we only have shallow information. As soon as Meiji came here, she headed to that direction too. It means that something important was there. Why would we waste our time here? Let's go. We should go there and see. At least we have to know what happened, so we have something to report to the clan when we go home," said Telika begrudgingly. Deep inside the ruins, under the light dome, Ling Mei and the members of the mysterious Sky Clan were searching around. Suddenly, they lifted their heads to look. Batum, Tate, and the others were gliding above their heads. Batum stooped to see her. He looked surprised, but he didn't stop. Ling Mei let out a slight cough and gathered her clansmen. Batum and Tate are here. They're heading to the same direction Meiji had left. They didn't stop along the way. It seems like they know something we don't. We shouldn't walk around aimlessly like this. "Madam, please decide," thundered the men. "We're going there too." Ling Mei decided and then led her fellows by flying up. Soon, they found Telika and Farlow behind. They were more certain with the decision to go this direction. If we can't explore this ancient building, we will never be able to leave. This place is the key. Ming, how stooped, like a meditating monk. I can't sense the call here. Only you two have the ability to do that. Think harder. What method do I have? The God Lord's voice was so cold. If I had a solution, I would have done it a long time ago. You can't get in there. Shiryen was surprised. You can try, ridiculed the God Lord. Let me think for a while. As Shiryen found that the God Lord can't do anything, he didn't hurry to try. He found a place and sat on the rock pile not far from the other two. He lifted his head to observe the building with the moving absolute beginning symbols and tried to think. Quietly, Shiryen moved his soul altar to stimulate the power Upanishads and change them constantly. The star-devouring, space, and death power Upanishads took turns moving. The aura on his body changed accordingly. It was immense, and then it turned into a bottomless, dark cave. The next moment, it disappeared and reappeared with heavy death chi. His aura changed marvelously. He was urging the life power Upanishad. All of a sudden, a strong vibe came from the tier of power Upanishad. The life power Upanishad surged. His head now became a sea of life with endless vitality. Almost instantaneously, billions of absolute beginning symbols on the ancient building glowed as bright as the stars. Brian and Ming, how discolored as they were dumbstruck. They lifted their heads to look at the brilliant ancient building. At the same time, Shi Yan suddenly understood the meaning of those absolute beginning words. So many identical absolute beginning symbols had the same and only meaning: life. Chapter 1426. The Absolute Beginning Original Symbol. Chapter 1426. The Absolute Beginning Original Symbol, _. The massive, archaic building was as big as a mountain. It looked like a tower with hundreds of thousands of windows. Countless absolute beginning symbols were moving on this building. Those absolute beginning symbols represented life. Shi Yan gathered his spirit and observed, revolving his soul altar to stimulate life power Upanishad. Swoosh! His soul altar flew out of his head and moved like a huge cluster of clouds towards the top of the tower-like ancient building. Shi Yan's body was still. His bright eyes were dim and blank. The god Lord Brian and Ming, how realized the commotion. They emerged from the piles of rocks. Their minds moved along with Shi Yan's soul altar and checked every small change. At this moment, Shi Yan's body didn't have the soul altar to guard and control. He became like a rock statue. If Brian had any dark thought, he could kill Shi Yan easily. Ming, how discreetly watched Brian. Don't doubt me. He's still valuable to me. I won't kill him. Brian smiled indifferently. I'm waiting to see what will happen to him when he finishes fusing with the heaven flames. Moreover, he triggered some changes here. We're counting on him to take us out of here. Ming, how looked at him in the eyes. Several seconds later, he quieted down. Then, they focused on Shi Yan's soul altar. That soul altar was like a massive cluster of clouds with many tiers. The lowest tier was the Sea of Consciousness, which was a vast, misty sea. Above the Sea of Consciousness was the tier of Power Upanishads with some marvelous features. It had a jet black cave that was moving like a massive mouth that could swallow everything. It was the devouring Power Upanishad. It had a galaxy with twinkling stars, the Star Power Upanishad. There was a crystal ball where the life energy fluctuated continuously. Of course, it was the Life Power Upanishad. A strange mirror stood on a corner and reflected many different spaces. It was the Space Power Upanishad. Another section had a whole gray, cold, isolated land with thick death chi. It was the Death Power Upanishad. Those were the wonders on the tier of Power Upanishads. After Shi Yan had reached the immortal realm, his Power Upanishads had transformed while he didn't notice. They had turned into tangible matter and stayed in his tier of Power Upanishads. The Sea of Fire with the original flames was separated with the Power Upanishads, even though they shared the same tier. They were like the yin and yang fish. Above the tier of Power Upanishads and Heaven Flames was a star area that had been resized billions of times smaller. It had a vast space, numerous stars where ancient trees, mountains, and rivers grew. Although Death Chi hovered, there was no creature. It was his incipient extent. Before it opened, it looked a little vague. The co-soul and the host soul occupied the place above the incipient extent and floated like the two gods watching the immense incipient extent, the tier of Power Upanishads and the Sea of Consciousness. The two godlike souls had different positions. The host soul was hovering a little higher than the co-soul. The co-soul was adjoining with the incipient extent. It looked like they had fused with each other, and below them was the tier of Heaven Flames. The co-soul was floating above the tier of Heaven Flame and blending harmoniously with the incipient extent. That was Shi Yan's soul altar. Today, the cloud-like soul altar slowly floated. Eventually, it hovered above the top of the ancient tower. The Sea of Consciousness at the bottom of that soul altar rippled strangely and fiercely. The crystal ball that represented the life power Upanishad on the tier of power Upanishads was glowing in a strange halo with surging vitality. Then, the sea of consciousness began to create many light layers and shroud the colossal tower. Miraculously, the absolute beginning symbols on the tower began to move. From the bottom of the tower, they slowly moved upward and merged with each other on the way. The absolute beginning symbols of the lower floors slowly moved upward and fused with the absolute beginning symbols on the upper floors. It looked like the worms were moving into a small snake. It was utterly bizarre. Brian and Ming Hao looked at each other. Even with their profound knowledge, they didn't know what was going on over there. The only thing they could do was wait. They had to wait until this finished. Meanwhile, they had to try their best to protect Shi Yan to make his body and soul alter get through this peculiar change. I admire this kid. It seems like he got lucky again. Previously, he wasn't even at incipient God realm. After dozens of years, he has reached the immortal realm. He's not far from us, said Ming Hao with some emotion. Brian snorted. Everything is because of the devouring power Upanishad. This sort of energy, collecting evil technique, could give him endless ability. With devouring power Upanishad, he doesn't need to worry about not gathering enough energy. However, he still needs to study the realm. And I understand clearly that realm comprehension is much more difficult than accumulating energy. As he has reached his realm today, it's enough to prove one thing. His innate talent is also ultimately extraordinary, said Ming Hao indifferently. Brian looked pensive. What was taking place in front of him proved that Ming Hao wasn't lying or exaggerating. Although it was the overbearing power of the devouring power Upanishad that had boosted Shi Yan's realm, they couldn't deny that Shi Yan was excellent in learning his realm. With his pride and position, Brian had to admit that Shi Yan wasn't weaker than anyone. They didn't continue their topic and just watched Shi Yan, waiting to see how the situation was going to develop. 10 days flew hurriedly. The absolute beginning symbols on dozens of lower floors were all gone as they merged upward. Afterward, they became more dazzling and livelier. The vitality emitting from them was so formidable. What is going to happen? Muttered Ming Hao. The god lord was waiting. He was waiting for Shi Yan to solve the riddle of this ancient building. He longed to get back to desolate territory. As the chief of the god clan in desolate territory, he understood that his homeland was at a critical moment because of Hui. He was worried about his fellow people and desolate territory. He wanted to leave as soon as possible. Suddenly, he frowned and looked afar. Someone is coming. Ming Hao was startled, but then his eyes brightened as he smiled. 6 hours later, a chilly silhouette came with white mist. As soon as she appeared, she was amazed and yelled, "Uncle!" She looked at Ming Hao and felt both happy and worried. Ming Hao smiled for the first time. "Good. Finally, you're here. I heard you got." He smiled and raked his eyes on her as if he was searching for something. His line of sight stopped by the dark figure laying on Audrey's shoulder. He was shocked and he shivered. He made a deep bow. "Teacher, you're still alive." Ming Hong grinned strangely. "After 10,000 years, you kiddo, you've reached such a realm. You didn't fail my favor that year." Ming Hong was Ming Hao's first teacher ever. He was also his uncle in the clan. Of course, he could show his superiority. Ming Hao bent his body respectfully. "Don't worry, teacher. I will help you get rid of the brutal soul bind. I will find a good imperial dark body for you so you can continue your cultivation. We'll talk about it later." Ming Hong waved his hand and sat up. He was like a little human sitting on Audrey's shoulder. "What are you doing here?" Swish! Another warrior arrived. Mei Ji appeared with her mind-stirring beauty. Ming Hao and Brian, the god lord, were puzzled. They looked dazzled and stunned, though. However, they had recovered after a few seconds as they had forcefully removed the mind-puzzling state. Meiji looked at them. She didn't know what happened, but the fact that Ming Hao and the God Lord weren't affected by her enchanting technique had frightened her. As soon as she arrived, she purposely used her soul-enchanting technique. When she used this powerful technique, even ones with dark energy, like Batum, were affected. They couldn't recover as quickly as these two did. Brian and Ming Hao had taken only a few seconds to resume their sound minds. As far as she'd known, even normal territory ancestor realm experts didn't have such tough minds and spirits. Meiji was scared. No one can disturb this place. We should kill anyone we don't know, Brian said nonchalantly and ruthlessly. You want to do that, or should I do that? He asked Ming Hao. Hearing him, Meiji felt so chilled. Brian's inhuman deeds had brought colors to her face. She immediately realized that this stranger used to have bloody karma. This sort of character would have no mercy to the beauty. Even when she had applied the enchanting technique on him, he still wanted to kill her. This man was truly cold-blooded. Ming Hao didn't pay attention to him. He turned to Audrey and asked skeptically, "Who is this beautiful woman? If you don't know her, we'll kill her. We don't want anyone to be bothered." As Ming Hao was the sole control chief of the bloodthirsty force, his hands were soaked in blood. Killing wasn't a burden in his heart. Somehow it was a fun and enjoyable act. I'm here to find Shiryen. It was unfortunate for Meiji. She wasn't weaker than Ming Hao and Brian, but she hadn't recovered fully from her previous battle. Moreover, after 10,000 years, Ming Hao and Brian had killed billions of creatures. She couldn't compare to their aura. Instinctively, she was fearful. Looking for Shiryen. Ming Hao had a strange countenance. He turned to look at the soul altar floating above the massive tower and mocked her. "Oh, dogs will always eat *T. This rascal kid always messes with beautiful women. Even when he came here, he still maintained such behaviors." He ridiculed Shiryen, but it somehow applied on Meiji too. However, after he finished, he found that his niece was blushing. He was so stunned. Are you also with him?" Ming Hao forced a smile looking at Audrey. Audrey was so embarrassed. The Power Upanishad, symbol tower, absolute beginning original symbols. However, at this moment, Ming Hong, who was sitting on Audrey's shoulder, suddenly screamed. He flew out and circled like an ugly bat. I remember it. Singh had an appointment with Tate. They said that they would come to the seabed to find it. It's real, unexpectedly. He looked at the massive ancient tower and the absolute beginning symbols and got strangely excited. Chapter 1427, The Ultimate Power Upanishad. Chapter 1427, The Ultimate Power Upanishad. Anusur. Ming Hong was like a little bat circling a massive ancient tower. He was cautious enough not to touch the tower. Apparently he knew its power. Brian and Ming Hao saw his strange deeds, so they stopped paying attention to Audrey and Meiji. Audrey's blushing slowly subsided. She blamed her uncle for his dog-like mouth that couldn't have elephant ivory. He didn't say anything good enough. Ming Hong circled the ancient tower for a while. He seemed to confirm something. Then he came back to Audrey's shoulder and sighed. I can't believe what Tate had said is true. Brian, Ming Hao, Audrey, and Meiji looked at him and waited for him to explain. Ming Hong didn't go around the bush. Very early on, the Soul Clan knew that the Sea of Annihilation's seabed had an absolute beginning vestige. They have sent a lot of warriors to search and explore. Lately, they found the Power Upanishad, symbol tower. They said they even found the absolute beginning original symbol. Tate contacted Singh and invited him for this search mission. Singh had agreed. He planned to finish his business on Dragon Lizard Star before going to the Sea of Annihilation to find the Power Upanishad, symbol tower. What's the Power Upanishad symbol tower? Frowned Ming Hao. You know it, don't you? Ming Hong grinned and looked at Meiji from a distance. Indeed, Meiji nodded. I know the Power Upanishad symbol tower. The Power Upanishad symbol tower has two functions. It contains or creates the absolute beginning original symbol. The Power Upanishad symbol tower is a tool that absolute beginning creatures created. It's like a container. Somehow, it's similar to the bone pond of the White Bone clan. However, it's much more mysterious. I heard from the precursor in my clan that each of the Power Upanishad symbol tower has hundreds of levels. To create an absolute beginning original symbol, it requires a lot of things. For example, asked Brian. For example, to refine an ice absolute beginning original symbol, it requires millions of warriors who cultivate ice power Upanishad from the very beginning level to the utmost level to be sacrificial objects. She rose her porcelain hand and pointed at so many windows on the massive tower at the lowest level. Those windows lock many warriors cultivating ice power Upanishad. From the lowest level, the warriors' realms are in increasing order. Elementary, nascent human realm, disaster realm, earth realm, nirvana realm, sky realm, spirit god realm, true god realm, king god realm, original god realm, ethereal god realm, incipient god realm, immortal realm, and even experts at territory ancestor realm. As the ultimate powers of the absolute beginning original symbol are different, the arrangement of the warriors at different realms is also different. For example, the elementary warriors could be placed in the lowest 10 levels or up to the 20th level. No matter what thought, the low realm warriors are placed lower as a foundation. Look at it. You can see that the lower levels of the tower are large. The number of warriors that act as a foundation could be millions. Also, there are actually so many of them to be found. The tower gets smaller all the way to the top with fewer and fewer windows. It's because the higher the realm of the warriors, they're harder to find. See, there are around dozens of windows for incipient god realm and 10 windows for immortal realm. Above them is the window for the territory ancestor realm. It can vary. If they want to refine the top quality absolute beginning original symbol with the ultimate supernatural power, they will need at least one expert at territory ancestor realm. The refining process is simple. Once the Power Upanishad symbol tower opens, it will take the streaks of Power Upanishad in those warriors, cultivating ice power Upanishad imprisoned in those windows. Then their spirit, soul, and chi will become one absolute beginning symbol representing ice power Upanishad. After that, it will leave the window and move around the Power Upanishad symbol tower unceasingly. If all those absolute beginning symbols merge together, they will create an absolute beginning original symbol, which carries the supernatural abilities of a Power Upanishad. According to what you said, to refine an absolute beginning original symbol, it will need dozens of thousands of creatures cultivating the same Power Upanishad as the sacrifices. Also, the sacrifice requires incipient god realm, immortal realm, and even territory ancestor realm experts. The god, Lord grimaced. It's true. Meiji also felt chilled from the bottom of her heart. To receive the ultimate Power Upanishad from the absolute beginning original symbol, it will need a territory ancestor realm expert as a sacrifice. The ultimate Power Upanishad. Ming Hao was also astounded. The absolute beginning creatures could create billions of lives in their own territory in that era. Those creatures were used as sacrifices to refine the absolute beginning original symbol. It's like how we breed and grow spirit beasts or herbs until they are at a specific strength or qualification when we will kill them or harvest them to refine tools, weapons, and pellets. Explained Meiji. Brian and Ming Hao exchanged looks. Their countenances became odder as they sighed inwardly. They lived in desolate territory where desolate was the lord of all things. If it was as Meiji had just explained, They were the creatures Desolate had bred and nurtured to refine as pellets later. They were materials with various qualification. The lowest quality products would become the foundation of the Power Upanishad symbol tower. Experts at their realm could become the sacrifice at the top of the tower. Although their realms were different, their consequences were the same. They were materials that Desolate would use to create something. I heard from my precursors that in a territory, after dozens of thousands of years of selecting from the elementary to the incipient god realm or immortal realm, the number of qualified warriors is just enough to refine one absolute beginning original symbol. If they have a territory ancestor realm expert, the absolute beginning original symbol produced will be at a higher quality. The absolute beginning original symbol is much more precious than the immortal pellet. If it's true that the absolute beginning original symbol contains the ultimate power Upanishad, it is. Meiji shook her head. Magical light shot out from her eyes as she watched Shuryan's soul altar hover above the power Upanishad symbol tower. What is he doing? Brian asked with a dark face. Taking the absolute beginning original symbol. One of his power Upanishads is matched with that absolute beginning original symbol, sighed Meiji. Life power Upanishad. Ming Hao was surprised. The absolute beginning original symbol in that power Upanishad symbol tower is the life power Upanishad. Those absolute beginning symbols mean life. God, Lord Brian's heart beat faster. He thought and then clutched his chest, feeling so bitter. Both Brian and Ming Hao didn't cultivate life power Upanishad. Even if they wanted to, they couldn't get it. Moreover, they needed that tower to leave this place. Even if they were indignant, they had to watch and wait for Shuryan to take the absolute beginning original symbol. Also, when dangers were going to come, they had to protect Shuryan too. They knew what the ultimate supernatural abilities were. The Blood-Soul Sea and the Death and Life rotating bridge were Shuryan's supernatural abilities. They were secret techniques formed with nature's principles, so somehow they were the gifts of nature. The ultimate power Upanishad was the origin of a power Upanishad, the last and most profound form with the deepest and most magical abilities, which could even become a principle. The ultimate power Upanishad was the principle of a power Upanishad. It was marvelously unrivaled, as it was the rules of earth and heaven that even the territory ancestor realm experts couldn't understand. Would it be anything more painful than watching the other take the treasure and have to protect him instead of competing for that treasure? Ming, Hao, and Brian had twisted faces as if their entire families were killed in front of them. The feeling was like a volcano as they had to suppress them, almost causing internal wounds. Power Upanishad, symbol tower. It's a power Upanishad, symbol tower. We found it. However, Tate's wild laughter came from a far distance. He was screaming, his face eccentric. It's the power Upanishad symbol tower, really, and it's a complete, preserved one. Batum and the old woman from the devouring clan were so excited and shivering. They looked at the power Upanishad symbol tower from a distance, as if they were eyeing countless mountains of gold and treasures. Someone is taking the absolute beginning original symbol. Batum's face was like the face of a strange, wiggling snake. He was extremely ugly. He screamed like he had just gotten stabbed and dashed towards the power Upanishad symbol tower as he thundered. That darn kid, he doesn't want to live anymore. You think you deserve to compete for the absolute beginning original symbol? You should be dead 1,000,000 times. Batum. Meiji's face was pale as she whined. Batum stooped to see Meiji. He was bewildered for a while and then laughed crazily. After I kill that kid and get the absolute beginning original symbol, I will have a talk with you. Precursors, we had a clear deal. You two can take the absolute beginning original symbol. The power Upanishad symbol tower will belong to our soul clan. I'm going to report to my teacher. He'll come shortly. Tate pitched his voice. Tate, Do you know what is the biggest mistake you've made? The old woman of the devouring clan suddenly smiled eccentrically. Tate was bewildered. What? You shouldn't do it behind your teacher's back. You shouldn't be so greedy to get this soup for yourself alone. You didn't report this to your teacher. That was your biggest mistake. The old woman from the devouring clan grinned. Her soul ultraspun, and a piece of a disgusting swamp swarmed over, covering Tate and some warriors of the Soul Clan. Within several seconds, Tate melted into the dirty water in the swamp. The old woman got rid of her erosive swamp and looked at Batum. To refine an absolute beginning original symbol, it needs the creatures of an entire territory. Batum you cultivate alone. Even if you get the tower, you don't have enough power to refine the absolute beginning original symbol. Only the 7 great clans can do that. We should make a deal, shouldn't we? Batum was about to attack her. Realizing that the absolute beginning symbols hadn't finished merging, he halted and asked, "What deal?" You take this unknown absolute beginning original symbol. You can exchange it for anything from a territory ancestor realm expert with a matched power Upanishad. This power Upanishad symbol tower will belong to our devouring clan. I can pledge that our devouring clan will find the sacrifices to help you refine another absolute beginning original symbol that matches your power Upanishad, hissed the old woman. Batum was hesitant. However, Meiji suddenly called him. Batum, if you help our Phantom Clan take that power Upanishad symbol tower, I agree with you. I will marry you and serve you as much as you want. I can promise you that the Phantom Clan will try our best to refine an absolute beginning original symbol for you. Batum became more hesitant. Batum, it's just a woman. When you reach the territory ancestor realm and you get the absolute beginning original symbol, what else will you not be able to have? The devouring clan old woman sneered. Even right now, I can confine this woman, and you can do whatever you want with her. Meiji's soft body quivered. Chapter 1428. Rise the Might in the Foreign Land. Chapter 1428. Rise the Might in the Foreign Land. Meiji knew that hag and how cunningly malicious she was. Hearing her, Meiji was chilled. This hag was called Ganfu. She was also an infamous expert of the devouring clan. She cultivated corrosion power Upanishad, and she often used low-realm creatures to cultivate her secret technique. She had offended all the second-class races, subjected to the devouring clan. Those clans had complained and wanted to leave the devouring clan's protection. When Ganfu heard that they wanted to punish her, she didn't say anything and just used her corrosion power Upanishad to destroy those clans. She had even melted their territory. Ganfu's inhuman deeds made her less welcome even in her own clan. If she hadn't had dark energy, which enabled her to reach the territory ancestor realm, the experts of devouring clan would have had to confine her and keep her from offending more people. Ganfu was sinister and ruthless. She could kill people without blinking her eyes once. However, she was loyal to the devouring clan. Because of the power Upanishad symbol tower, she had put more effort, indeed. Tate was greedy. He didn't report the progress of this mission to his teacher. He thought that with his teacher's reputation, Ganfu would listen to him. And now, Tate was just a puddle of blood. Ganfu had eroded him completely. This venomous hag wasn't afraid of Tate's teacher because of the power Upanishad symbol tower. Of course, she didn't consider Meiji anything important. If Meiji was at her peak condition, even if she couldn't defeat Ganfu, she could run away safely. However, she couldn't leave deliberately. Ganfu didn't care about the Soul Clan and killed Tate. Of course, she wouldn't hesitate to confine her and offend the Phantom Clan too. This made Meiji insecure. She turned to Batum unconsciously. Batum hovered in midair, his face uncertain. He was struggling in his mind. Batum was also the lord of an area. Thinking for a few seconds, he grinned and nodded to the old woman. Hey, poisonous hag, get Meiji for me. I'm going to get the absolute beginning original symbol first. You can take the Power Upanishad symbol tower as long as you promise to refine me an absolute beginning original symbol suitable for my Power Upanishad first. Deal. Ganfu grinned like a banshee. Hovering in the void, she extended her hand to grab Meiji. Hundreds of dusky vipers danced like vines and spurted dark smoke as they tried to tie Meiji. Meiji's eyes were cold while she changed her Power Upanishad. Rumble. Crystal icicles of around dozens of meters jutted out of Meiji's sexy body. All of them were chilled to the bone and as sharp as a steel knife. Meiji now looked like a big hedgehog with many spikes. I knew you would do that. Ganfu sounded disdainful. The gray vipers were strangely agile. They were hissing ear-piercingly. When the icicles zoomed near, they released a terrifying erosive aura that turned into ash-gray flames and smoke in the next moment and covered Meiji's body entirely. The gray flame was melting Meiji's ice. Meiji can't run now. Ganfu lifted her head with pride and urged Batum. Get down here, quickly. She cautiously looked at Ming Hao and Brian. She focused especially on Ming Hao because she felt insecure almost instantly when she saw him. She felt a familiar aura on him. It was like when she was facing extraordinary warriors cultivating soul, control, power, Upanishad in her clan. Among the 8 great, evil Power Upanishads, not many Power Upanishads were complete. Many of them couldn't derive the deepest part or the most powerful part of their abilities. Ming Hao gave her an extremely strange feeling. She thought it was absurd, but she felt like she was facing an expert with complete and profound soul control Power Upanishad. While attacking Meiji, she discreetly observed Ming Hao and tried to find something that could help her get rid of that puzzling feeling. In the same manner, Ming Hao was also shaken. He looked at Ganfu using her corrosion Power Upanishad, his eyes so strange. The sea domain of Nihility has 7 great clans, including the Soul Clan, the Mysterious Sky Clan, the Black Demon Clan, the Ancient Monster Clan, the Devouring Clan, the Whitebone Clan, and the Phantom Clan. The Devouring Clan consists of the descendants of Devour, the absolute beginning creature. Their exclusive Power Upanishad is the Devouring Power Upanishad. However, it has been lost early on. Now they focus only on the 8 great, evil Power Upanishads. After a long time, their Power Upanishads aren't complete anymore. Audrey's cold but clear voice arose and told the secrets that Ming Hao and the God Lord didn't know, including the Devouring Clan's profile. Ming Hao and the God Lord understood it immediately. They exchanged looks and saw the surprise in each other's eyes. Well, you've been keeping an eye on our bloodthirsty force for 10,000 years. I'm leaving that poisonous woman to you. Deal with her. After pondering for a while, Ming Hao spoke when he saw Batum and Ganfu seal their deal. I'll take care of that, Batum. We'll take 1 each. It will be much faster. He talked about it as it was something easy to do. However, his voice was soaked with murderous intentions, which was utterly frightening. Meiji was startled. She knew that Ming Hao and the God Lord weren't ordinary experts. She knew that they were strong, but she couldn't sense the aura of the Territory Ancestor Realm experts on them. So if they weren't Territory Ancestor Realm experts, how could they confront Batum and Ganfu? Both Batum and Ganfu had dark energy. They had made 1 step into Territory Ancestor Realm. Haughty! Meiji sneered inwardly. However, what happened next shook her heart. It was like a storm washing through her head. Light that fills the sky, surge with me. The God Lord clapped his hands in front of his chest. The void behind him bloomed with blinding light. This holy halo had the power of 5 elements Power Upanishad: metal, wood, water, fire, earth. The 5 Power Upanishads were chained by light. At this moment, the God Lord looked like an archangel coming to earth from heaven with endless, terrifying pressure. Billions of light beams shot out from his body and shelled Ganfu. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Ganfu's corrosive energy evaporated under the light as if she had been exposed under the sunlight for a long time. Ganfu was also affected. She smoked and screamed. She couldn't focus on Meiji anymore. Meiji could relax a little bit as Ganfu had retrieved erosive energy, attacking her to deal with the God Lord. Who are you? Ganfu's face changed. You don't have dark energy, but you are really strong. You're not from the 7 great clans. Who are you? The God Lord's power had frightened Ganfu. She couldn't believe that an opponent at this level could scare her. Instinctively, she turned to Batum to check his situation. At first glance, Ganfu panicked and screamed ear-piercingly. Soul Control Power Upanishad. Who are you? Why can you use the Soul Control Power Upanishad? It's the Devouring Clan's Power Upanishad. Ming Hao had turned into billions of gloomy shadows. Each shadow was one of his soul clones. The soul energy fluctuated from countless clones and created a soul chain that tied Batum's soul altar down. Once his soul altar was bound, Batum, who had almost entered the territory ancestor realm, was going to be possessed. He was going to become one of Ming Hao's soul slave. It was how domineering the Soul Control Power Upanishad was. The Soul Control Power Upanishad that Ming Hao was using now was the most powerful technique. Even High Realm warriors cultivating this Power Upanishad in the Devouring Clan couldn't do that. It was unimaginable to Ganfu. Brian, do you see that the warriors of the sea domain of nihility are just like them? Perhaps the 4 heavenly kings under your command could fight with third sky of immortal realm experts here. I think it's a little strange, said Ming Hao all of a sudden. The God Lord had the same feeling. The sea was the center of this entire universe. It was the place where high-level creatures gathered. Logically, their power Upanishads and realms were the top ones. They were supposed to be stronger than the warriors from desolate territory. But it was like that, actually. Ganfu cultivated corrosion power Upanishad at third sky of immortal realm, which was a higher realm than Gato, the corrosion chief, had when he was alive. However, when Brian fought against Ganfu, he found that Gato and Ganfu weren't very different. However, he believed that if Gato had been at third sky of immortal realm, he would have been much stronger than Ganfu. The Devouring Clan received power Upanishads from Devour. Their power Upanishads are too ancient. When Devour and Desolate fought, Devour had developed his power Upanishads to be much more profound. The power Upanishads he had given Bloodthirsty are of course better and more marvelous. For a long period of time, Bloodthirsty had cultivated those power Upanishads with his excellent talents. He had completed them and gave them new faces and abilities. At the same time, the Devouring Clan often has internal wars, which has worn out their power Upanishads little by little. If we have to compare, they aren't as strong as you two. Ming Hong was still lying on Audrey's shoulder, as he had lived in the sea domain of nihility for 10,000 years. He had profound knowledge. He told them the main reasons immediately. Desolate territory was created by Desolate. I heard that a long, long time ago, Desolate was the most outstanding existence. It has 2 absolute beginning divine weapons too. One is very marvelous. It can create lives. That's why the experts from Desolate territory have the same realms as the warriors from any territory in the sea domain of nihility. We can even be more prominent than them in some aspects. It's not strange that we can challenge the experts at a higher realm. It's because of Desolate and the 2 absolute beginning divine weapons. The God Lord was startled. He frowned and started thinking. He also got a wisp of Desolate soul. He used to visit Desolate too. He knew about the existences of the fountainhead of power Upanishads and the ancient tree of life. He had vaguely thought that these two could be the absolute beginning divine weapons from before. And now, with Ming Hong's explanation, he had the answer to his question. Desolate, bloodthirsty. Gan Fu suddenly bellowed and pointed at the god, Lord, and Ming Hao. You are from that evil place. You come from the same place as that demon bloodthirsty. You damn pagans. You've stolen the previous assets of our devouring clan. You've despicably stolen the power Upanishads of our clan. All of you deserve 1,000,000 times of death. Even your ancestor devourer was defeated in our desolate territory. What storm can you rise? The god, Lord, looked cold and harsh. A brilliant, 5-colored light with the 5 stars, metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, was as dazzling as diamonds that crossed the sky and snatched over Gan Fu. Gan Fu was like a sinister, viper that was dragged out of its lair and laid under the blazing sunlight. A flame burned her. Her erosive energy dissolved as soon as it gathered. After many years of staying here, the god Lord had recovered his full energy. 10,000 years ago, he had been at the peak of a mortal realm already. Because of dark energy, he was stuck at the threshold to the territory ancestor realm. The reason why he couldn't learn dark energy was his fear, or what Bloodthirsty had told him, or even the power of Desolate. No one could deny the god Lord's strength and talent. He had led the god clan for 10,000 years, making the clan the overlord of Desolate territory. His deeds and spirit were of an unrivaled expert. In that vast, desolate territory, he was just behind Bloodthirsty. This hag was just a member of the devouring clan. Even if she understood dark energy, she wasn't an extraordinary demon like Bloodthirsty. It wasn't a surprise that she could be suppressed or killed. Chapter 1429, Must Vie for It. Chapter 1429, Must Vie for It. More shadows came like howling tornadoes from afar. What? The warriors who had just come couldn't help but shout. Looking at the scene, they all wore strange faces. Who are these two? They aren't from the 7 great clans or are hotshots of the Sea of Annihilation. So strange. Farlo was surprised as she watched the others. Behind her was Telika and Ling Mei's team from Mysterious Sky Clan. They had followed Gan Fu and Batum here. As soon as they arrived, they found Batum and Gan Fu fighting the others. They were bewildered indeed. Where is Tate's team? Ling Mei's bright eyes raked around, her face gradually stern. She smelled blood, so she turned to look. On the ground where Gan Fu was hovering, there was a puddle of blood that hadn't dried yet. Ling Mei was scared. She looked at Gan Fu and she knew what had happened. Guys, stay away from here. Don't come close, she reminded her warriors. Power Upanishad, symbol tower, absolute beginning original symbol. Right at this moment, Yerberg of the ancient monster clan emerged. He was so excited when he saw the power Upanishad symbol tower, and he screamed. His scream was like bellowing thunder in people's heads. Farlo, Telika, and Ling Mei got their eyes off of Batum and Gan Fu. They opened their eyes wider and looked at the ancient tower. As they were outstanding warriors of the 7 great clan, they had extraordinary knowledge. Even though they had never seen any drawing of the power Upanishad symbol tower, they had heard about it. Realizing that the massive tower in front of them was the power Upanishad symbol tower, they were awestruck. Their eyes became hot as the flame of greed was burning in them. They scanned the tower and didn't even blink. What's that? Ling Mei looked at the soul altar hovering atop the tower and couldn't help but yell, "Is he taking in the absolute beginning original symbol?" Ling Mei's line of sight fell on Mei Ji. Mei Ji looked uneasy and astringent. Argurg! Suddenly, Gan Fu faced the sky and howled. Her body was sweating like melting ice under a dazzling sunlight. Her incipient extent arose, containing countless wisps of poisonous gas. Under the gas were so many ponds and swamps in different colors. They were all frightening indeed. At this moment, Ganfu's incipient extent was covered in immense light. The gas in her world evaporated. The colored swamps with different colors diluted little by little under that light. Gradually, they became clear water ponds. It meant that Ganfu's erosive energy was drifting away fast. The god Lord wore an indifferent countenance. The light emitted from his body was like an immense sky. It looked like he was sinking in the middle of the great, brilliant halos. The 5 massive planets of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth were like diamonds revolving and relaying intimidating pressure. Ganfu couldn't stand it. She didn't know that God Lord Brian had fought against the bloodthirsty force for 10,000 years. He understood the power Upanishads of the bloodthirsty force as the back of his hand. After he got the power from Desolate, his light power Upanishad was also the nemesis of the bloodthirsty force. Of course, it had the same fatal effects on corrosion power Upanishad. Batum wasn't in a good condition, either. This ugly old man cultivated storm power Upanishad. Blocks of wildly swirling blasts of wind moved around and merged with each other to create a massive tornado, which was enough to destroy any incipient god realm expert. Getting inside Batum's stormy field, the immortal realm expert's soul altar could break from the storm. Inside the stormy field, Minghao's mind flickered, and he had turned into millions of souls. Each of the soul clones was like an eternal flame with a soul-binding power. They acted like chains and coiled around the ugly old man. Batum's stormy field became sluggish, and it ceased at the end. He roared brutally and attacked each of Minghao's soul clones. Minghao ridiculed and sneered, dashing toward him from every direction. He was like a flooding sea that attacked the ugly old man's soul in every direction. Batum had experienced fighting against the experts of the Devouring Clan, especially the ones cultivating soul control power Upanishad. However, Minghao's power was greater than his knowledge and experience. While fighting, Minghao's souls could flash and disappear. They seemed to be able to move through space, slits, to avoid the stormy slaughter. Batum didn't know that besides the soul power Upanishad of the Imperial Dark Tribe, Minghao had also cultivated the space power Upanishad altogether. When he joined Bloodthirsty's force, he had begun to cultivate soul control power Upanishad. Not many people knew that the experiences in his 2 previous phases of life had affected Minghao greatly. He had cultivated the soul control power Upanishad to a new height. His understanding of this power was even more profound and thorough than Bloodthirsty the Ear. Of course, his attainment had surpassed the warriors cultivating soul control power Upanishad in the Devouring Clan. Batum understood dark energy, but his level wasn't more profound than Shi Yan's. Before he could break through to Territory Ancestor Realm, he couldn't use dark energy's ability. His quality couldn't change a bit. Thus, he was in a disadvantageous situation too. Atop the power Upanishad symbol tower, Shi Yan's soul altar was pressing down like a falling sky. His soul consciousness was affecting the tower. Those absolute beginning symbols were merging upward, and now they were around 10 more levels to the top. Their speed gradually slowed down. Batum and Ganfu were suppressed by the God Lord and Minghao. Farlo, Yerbo, and Lingmei had arrived later, and they pulled themselves together when they saw that Batum and Ganfu couldn't defeat the others. They watched the situation and waited for a chance to take action or improvise. Yerberg was sneaky. He quietly moved behind a pile of rocks. Hiding by the pile of rocks, he sneered and took out an eyeball when no one noticed him. That eyeball was a secret soul treasure that was used to communicate. Yerberg held the treasure with both hands and urged his soul consciousness. He was about to contact the real experts of his clan. Swoosh! A bat-like creature suddenly appeared in front of Yerberg and grinned. Right when Yerberg was about to cast his technique, the alien rose a finger. Crack! Crack! The eyeball cracked and shattered. The soul consciousness inside perished. An energy attack ran directly into Yerberga's brain. Yerberga's eyes bled as he shrieked and screeched. He jumped like a monster whose tail was cut off. He became wild instantly. Kid, stay at your lot. Don't think about spreading the information. Your soul altar is hurt. Don't act recklessly, said Ming Hong. He had always monitored the area. When he found Yerberg about to send his message, he didn't attack immediately. He had waited until Yerberg gathered his soul consciousness and then attacked. Yerberg couldn't defend in such a condition. His soul got hurt badly and instantly. Ming Hong had been with Sing for many years. He was an old fox himself. After he had swallowed Sing's soul, he got Sing's dark mind too. When he wanted to attack, it would be really hard to predict and prevent it. Yerberg screeched, his eyes bleeding terribly. He had almost lost his vision. He could only see a vague feature floating in front of him. He calmed down quickly, stopped screaming, and sat down at his lot. Rocks in different shapes were summoned, and they covered his entire body. Each of those rocks contained a wisp of terrifying energy, which was also linked together. Once one of them was hit or triggered, the entire pile of rocks would blast altogether. Ming Hong had verbally stimulated him to make him snap back or counterattack. He didn't expect this kid to calm down that quickly. Yerberg had let go of his attack and defense, taking out his life treasure. Gazing at the rocks for a while, Ming Hong didn't dare to break them. He could only let him go and leave. Yerberga's eyes were bleeding like two streams. He looked so terrible that Farlow, Telika, and Ling Mei got freaked out. They didn't dare to do anything. They pulled themselves together and watched the Power Upanishad symbol tower. Shi Yan's co-soul and host soul were like angels watching the world from heaven. They were hovering above the incipient extent to observe the marvels underneath. Gradually, the large wave of absolute beginning symbols was closer to the top. The more symbols they had merged, the more dazzling they became. Those words were radiant with 7 colored halos, which were so magnificent to watch. Waves of vitality surged and sent energy to those symbols. The world under the light curtain also became vigorous. Everybody observed and found a large amount of unknown grass growing from the cracks of the ruins. Those tufts of grass were lushly green and strong. Life Power Upanishad, Ling Mei yelled. The others had also recognized that it was a life absolute beginning original symbol that could fuse with the Power Upanishad of a warrior cultivating the matched Upanishad. As Audrey saw that the progress had come to a critical point, she looked stern. She released other brutal souls that she got from Sing and watched Farlow, Telika, Yerberg, and Ling Mei. She ordered her brutal souls discreetly. If the others had the guts to move, Audrey's brutal souls would kill them. Farlow and Telika understood that if they missed this chance, the absolute beginning original symbol would belong to Shi Yan forever as soon as it reached his brain. They were vying in their minds to calculate while watching Batum and Ganfu. They knew that Batum and Ganfu would risk their lives at this last moment. They would do anything to vie for the absolute beginning original symbol. They were waiting for the 2 strongest experts to trouble the god, Lord, and Ming Hao, which would give them a good chance. For the absolute beginning original symbol, for the Power Upanishad symbol tower, risk our lives. Yerberg looked horrible with his bleeding eyes. He opened his eyes and dashed toward the Power Upanishad symbol tower. Batum and Ganfu hissed and roared like animals facing death. Batum pounded his fist on his glabella. A terrifying storm arose with millions of twisted blasts of wind that could tear any creature. The storm was like a demon's mouth, trying to swallow Ming Hao's soul clones. Gan Fu hissed darkly and spurted viscous blood. Her blood was green with unrivaled, corrosive poison. As soon as she did that, the domineering light from the god Lord dissolved. The god Lord discolored in fright. This is getting more interesting. Mei Ji, hissed Ling Mei, her face stern. Which side do you support? Mei Ji faced the sky and struggled hard in her mind. She couldn't choose any side. Chapter 1430. Among what is true and what is false. Chapter 1430. Among what is true and what is false. Gan Fu's body shriveled as if she had become a midget. Her spirit, soul, and chi were drifting away. She spurted blood with a pure, powerful erosive energy that unexpectedly reached a terrifying level. The God Lord was stern and insecure because he knew Gan Fu was paying with her blood and life to carry out some dark and evil technique. This technique had used an enormous amount of her energy, and it could hurt her soul altogether. However, the generated corrosive energy was much more powerful than before. This erosive energy had a strange tint that was very familiar to the God Lord. It was dark energy. Sizzle, sizzle. The bloodstream that was Gan Fu's life blood sprayed on the bright metal star. The halo of the metal star was shadowed instantly. It was shrinking and eroding at a speed that naked eyes could see. The God Lord's handsome face paled. The light in his eyes dimmed as he snorted. Greed can urge your potentials, but it can also take your life away. It seems like you don't even need your life just for the power Upanishad symbol tower. You don't know. Outsiders like you will never know. Gan Fu smiled bitterly. With this power Upanishad symbol tower, I will find your desolate territory and use billions of lives there to create a corrosion absolute beginning original symbol. I will grasp the ultimate power Upanishad and become the overlord of corrosion power Upanishad. You will see that day. I'm telling you now. Your evil homeland will be destroyed. Our devouring clan will destroy it. Gan Fu was still shrinking. She was dried up as if she had taken all of her blood out. She was using a secret technique similar to the rampage. However, it wasn't as strong as Shi Yan's rampage. Shi Yan's rampage used negative energy from his acupuncture points, so it wouldn't hurt his body. Gan Fu's evil technique used her blood to boost the corrosion power Upanishad to the utmost. However, she had to bear a terrible consequence. Her body would rot and she would have to abandon it in the end. However, Gan Fu thought that the power Upanishad symbol tower was much more precious than her body. To get the tower, she didn't regret to pay any price. Sizzle, sizzle. The green blood became a small pond, which was deeply green. Gan Fu's dried, withered body hovered above the green pond while she was still gushing out blood and aimed at the God Lord. As soon as Brian's light touched the small, green pond, it got polluted. Slowly, his light lost its purity. It gradually lost the pure, holy power. The God Lord pulled a loathing face. Seeing the green pond get out of his restraint, he immediately increased more layers of light. However, his light couldn't stop it anymore. The green pond forcefully dissolved his holy light. Gan Fu seized the chance and stormed out. Almost at the same time, Yerberg, Telika, and Farlow soared up and aimed at Shi Yan. Telika grinned. 7 crystal, lightning dragons flew out of his eyes. The dragons had armor-like scales. In the grumbling thunder, they stormed towards Shi Yan's soul altar. Rumble, rumble, rumble. So many long lightning dragons barged into Shi Yan's sea of consciousness. Shi Yan's sea of consciousness seethed. The impact sent starlight, dots everywhere. The other observed and found Shi Yan's co-soul and host soul dim out as if they were about to vanish. Telika laughed wildly. No one is guarding you. While you take in the absolute beginning original symbol, it's when you're weakest. Let me see how you can survive. Farlo didn't show mercy. Her eyes shimmered with a strange light. So many light balls like hedgehogs rolled toward Shurian's sea of consciousness. Those light balls exploded as soon as they fell and shot countless spikes, cutting and slashing the sea of consciousness. Shurian's co-soul and host soul were like flickering candles in the wind. They were vague, as if they would extinguish in any minute. His sea of consciousness was attacked, which affected the progress of taking in the absolute beginning original symbol. The absolute beginning symbols were now only 3 levels away from the top. There were dozens of symbols left to merge. At this moment, those remaining symbols were still swimming around. However, they didn't continue to merge with each other. "Madam, what should we do?" One of the mysterious Sky Clan warriors looked at Ling Mei next to him. Elder Tu Shi said that we have to try our best to create a good relationship with this one and recruit him to our mysterious Sky Clan. Ling Mei didn't take action, her bright eyes cold. She furrowed her brows and said, "He used to add that if we have to go against him, we must try our best to kill him. We shouldn't leave any possible danger." The members of the mysterious Sky Clan were shaken and astounded. Ling Mei took a deep breath and looked at Meiji, who was still struggling to make a decision. "He has obviously denied us. He won't become our non-native officer. At most, we just have a little relationship. Anyway, this relationship is nothing compared to the Power Upanishad symbol tower." Pausing for a while, Ling Mei made up her mind. "We shouldn't give up the Power Upanishad symbol tower. It's easy to choose now. Do your best. Even if you have to destroy yourself, you have to vie for the Power Upanishad symbol tower for your fellows." She turned to a warrior at first sky of a mortal realm, the lowest realm here. "You're at the lowest realm. For our fellows and the clan's welfare, you know what to do, right?" That mysterious Sky Clan warrior didn't hesitate. He was like an extremely religious warrior, roaring and crying as he attacked Shurian's sea of consciousness. While in midair, his body started to burn. His soul altar emerged. It was a sea of fire. He had cultivated fire power Upanishad. Today, his soul altar was burning, which meant he was burning his life to cast a fatal attack. If his soul altar exploded inside Shurian's sea of consciousness, Shurian would have no way to duck. His soul altar would shatter altogether. It was death. "How dare you!" However, at this moment, Meiji screamed, ice swords growing on her body. In just a blink of an eye, several thousand ice swords flew out and aimed at that man. After Meiji launched this defense, she was a little bewildered as she couldn't believe that she had done that. She couldn't believe that she would help Shurian and save him. Seeing the other want to destroy Shurian, she was so fluttered and panicked. She didn't think, and all of her concerns seemed to go away when she shot her ice swords. "I know I can't trust you," Ling Mei said faintly and raised her hand. Layers of water were conjured and they shielded against so many ice swords. Ling Mei cultivated water power Upanishad. Water and ice shared the same origin, but they were different in appearance. She and Meiji had been competing for years. Their powers were always equal. But today, Ling Mei had gained the upper hand. "Water restriction!" Ling Mei screamed. Those ice swords were covered in water and couldn't move further. Meiji sent her soul energy with swords, so when they were trapped, her body started shivering and she started spurting dark blood. She had been hurt and she hadn't recovered yet. Today, she couldn't control it after she got hit. Meiji's charming face paled. Her watery eyes turned dusky on her grimaced face. "Meiji, you can't beat me." Ling Mei wore a cold face. She didn't attack more. "When you attacked Shurian and didn't take the wisp of absolute beginning creature's soul, I know something was wrong. I don't know what you've experienced, but I know your heart is touched. Otherwise, you wouldn't have failed. Women of your phantom clan rarely fall in love. But once you do, you act like a moth attracted to a fire. I understand a guy, so I've always paid attention. You didn't fail me. Mei Ji's face grimaced more. She gritted her teeth and didn't have a bit of strength to explain herself. She lifted her head to look at the sky. She found that the sacrificial warrior of the mysterious Sky Clan had passed Farlo and Telika. As the others saw that the man wanted to stop Yen from taking in the absolute beginning original symbol with his death, they happily gave him way. Mei Ji felt empty all of a sudden. She thought something that belonged to her was about to shatter. She blankly looked at the sky, her eyes absent-minded. If you want to die, go die. All of a sudden, the girl who was just a junior here pitched her clear voice. It was Audrey who just spoke. She was the only incipient god, realm warrior in this place. She looked at the sky and spoke nonchalantly and naturally. A strange creature that was like a bat appeared, swelling. Quickly, it became a terrifying, brutal soul, opening its big mouth to swallow all the brutal souls. Its ethereal body had become real. He grew more than 100 meters tall and grinned fiendishly. His sharp claw was like an iron anchor that snatched and grabbed the flaming chunk that wanted to hit Yen with his tragic death. Die. Ming Hong laughed evilly in the void. Boom! 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 The flaming object exploded and sent fires and sparks everywhere together with blood, pieces of flesh, and internal organs. A charred, roasted piece of intestine fell on Telika's neck like a black necklace. He felt disgusting and yelled. Just a little incipient god realm. Even if you have Sing's brutal souls, what else can you do with your feeble body? Ling Mei frowned. As soon as this woman decided to stop Yen from taking in the absolute beginning original symbol, she seemed to become a totally different person. She was calm and naturally giving her commands. She pointed at Audrey and spoke indifferently. Kill her. Without brutal souls to protect her, she's as weak as a sheet of paper. A mysterious Sky Clan man wearing black armor acted as he was ordered. He was holding a jagged saber and filling himself with a brutal, deadly aura. Ming Hong hovered in the void and gathered the other brutal souls to be more frightening. He had swallowed all the brutal souls, leaving Audrey unguarded. Seeing Ling Mei order to kill Audrey, Ming Hong didn't hesitate and landed from the sky to protect her. Telika, Farlo Yerberg, what are you waiting for? Ling Mei shouted. Telika grinned. Ling Mei, you're always excellent with extraordinary deeds. You're one level stronger than Mei Ji, indeed. A member of the Phantom Clan who has fallen in love can't compare to you. He laughed and gathered lightning dragons, smashing Yan's sea of consciousness one more time. Yan's sea of consciousness exploded and created more high waves. His co-soul and host soul looked extremely feeble. The absolute beginning symbols had stopped merging and started slowly dividing. The symbols that had merged with each other seemed to resume their previous condition. They were about to fall back to their previous below levels. Ling Mei looked indifferent even though Telika had just complimented her. She didn't even blink as she looked at the sky and the top of the massive tower where Yan's soul was hovering. All of a sudden she found something. Her calm face had a gleam of deep fear. No, he isn't hurt. He has the lost devouring power Upanishad of the devouring clan. Your attacks are ineffective to his sea of consciousness. Devouring power Upanishad, the supreme power Upanishad of my clan. Gan Fu stopped by Ming Hao, screaming and shouting as if she was mentally ill or saw ghosts in daylight. Chapter 1431. You are still unskilled. Chapter 1431. You are still unskilled. Ling Mei and Gan Fu were screaming and drawing people's attention who was watching Yen. Anyway, they actually had paid attention to the relationship between Shuryen and the absolute beginning original symbol, the Power Upanishad symbol tower previously. And now, after their screaming, they couldn't help but lift their heads to look at Shuryen's sea of consciousness and the tier of Power Upanishad. Of course, they saw a jet black hole. Currently, that black hole was like a black vortex that spun strangely. It looked indescribably evil indeed. People now understood. They all grimaced. They recognized that Ling Mei was correct. They knew the reason why those absolute beginning symbols suddenly stopped merging and seemed to divide. It wasn't because Shuryen got hit, which discontinued his flow of energy. It was because Shuryen wasn't using Life Power Upanishad at this moment. The dark, revolving cave told them that Shuryen was using his devouring Power Upanishad. It was the most terrifying and malicious Power Upanishad that has been lost for so many years. It was famous for its devouring ability. It could swallow all kinds of energy and make other races loathe it to the bones. When they recognized that strange commotion, as to prove Ling Mei's assumption, Shuryen's flickering co-soul and host soul condensed and became clear. The host soul and the co-soul still looked indifferent, as if nothing had happened to them. Ling Mei was correct. Shuryen wasn't hurt at all. When Telika attacked him, Shuryen had switched his Power Upanishad. He had to pause the fusing process of the Life Power Upanishad to use the marvelous ability of the devouring Power Upanishad. His sea of consciousness had dark energy, so it wasn't just an ordinary sea of consciousness. It had a defensive power created by the powerful dark energy. As he had urged the devouring Power Upanishad, his sea of consciousness became like a massive vortex. When Telika's attack came, his sea seethed, which appeared terrifying. However, it actually didn't affect him a bit. While his sea of consciousness surged, the exploding lightning energy slowly subsided. The black hole in his sea of consciousness had taken it all. With Space Power Upanishad, he had created illusions to cover his actions. Only Brian and Ming Hao could see his sneaky moves. They knew that he wasn't hurt. That's why Brian didn't take action. He even had a faint smile. When Gan Fu burst out her deadly power, he didn't stop her. As he didn't even move, Ming Hao could only try his best to interfere with her. Millions of his clones divided and sent a part of them to stop Gan Fu, entangling with her for a while. Shuryen couldn't estimate Ling Mei's deed. Although the mysterious Sky Clan seemed to want to establish an alliance with him, they decided to throw everything away for the Power Upanishad symbol tower at this critical moment. They wanted to take him down at any cost. Ling Mei's cold, calm, and precise orders had affected him greatly. Shuryen was shaken and insecure when Ling Mei could see what he was hiding. She knew that he had mastered devouring Power Upanishad and wasn't hurt. Seize 15 minutes for me, or else. Don't think about getting out of this place. Shuryen's soul consciousness poured like a stream from the sky and fell on Brian the God Lord. Brian was standing and watching Ming Hao dealing with two opponents at the same time and gradually falling into the lower hand. He had planned to see Ming Hao consume his energy. However, when he heard Shuryen's voice, he snorted and replied, "You guys of the Bloodthirsty Force are so cunning. Don't worry. I will take action when I should. But don't dream about me sacrificing my life for you. Ming Hao should be the one who does that for you. If he can't, of course, I will join him. You just enjoy it over there." Oh. Devouring Power Upanishad. It's the Devouring Power Upanishad. Gan Fu screamed ear-piercingly, her body shaking hysterically. She was sitting on the green blood pond. At this moment, she had shrunk her body thrice. Now, she was just around 1 meter tall. She had no color on her mummy-like body, except for her overjoyed eyes. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. The green blood underneath her emitted a thick green mist. The rotten, Corrosive energy from that green mist was so thick that it could rot people's internal organs when they inhaled. Ming Hao's soul clones were afraid of the mist. When green mist expanded, his soul clones retreated. Telika, attack his twin souls. Once his souls get damaged, even if he has more tricks, he will perish quickly. Ling Mei pulled herself together fast. When they had to capture each fraction of time, she'd go the right direction in just a blink of an eye, ordering people to attack Shi Yan's souls. Telika, Farlow, and Yerberg weren't idiots. Hearing her, they reacted and ignored the seething sea of consciousness to attack Shi Yan's two souls above. Up! Audrey hissed resolutely. A gray soul lotus throne emerged and brought Audrey upward. That lotus throne was created by dozens of thousands of wailing ghosts and departed souls. Fearsome faces appeared by the edge of the lotus, shrieking and showing fangs. Ming Hao was right in front of the lotus throne. He looked like a massive skull lying underneath Audrey. He opened his mouth and spurt dark smoke to prevent a muscular man from the mysterious sky clan 100 meters away. Black guards, stop her! Ling Mei hovered and shouted coldly. All the members of the mysterious Sky clan accompanied her this time, left Shi Yan and turned around. Audrey was their new target. Instantly, the cold sabers as big as a rainbow and a silver mountain range snatched over Audrey. Break! Audrey hissed and made a magical hand seal. A cluster of light emerged from her palms. So many souls gathered inside the cluster of light and created something like a throbbing black heart. It then forcefully hit the saber and the silver mountain range from the black guards. At the same time, Mei Ji, the only person still staying on the ground, had finally taken action. Her entire body became frozen. She was now an ice warrior with ice muscles. While her eyes were blinking, the 100-meter-long icicles were like massive lances that shot out and stabbed towards Ling Mei in the middle of the air. A trickle of blood oozed down the corner of her mouth. She looked even paler. Apparently, this attack had worsened her wounds. Every time an ice lance jutted out of her body, her perfect body shivered as if a big hammer pounded on her chest. After many big lances were shot, her soft body was shaking unceasingly. She limped and couldn't even stand upright. Ling Mei sighed. Why would you do that? Is he worth you risking your life? I can't understand phantom women. Why do you always puzzle people? Why do you always do stupid things? Then her jade-like hand rose. Water moves the sky. A clear drop of water like a tear appeared. It sucked the water and then swelled into a clear lake. The lake reflected Ling Mei's beautiful face and then began to ripple. Each ripple from that lake could shatter one ice lance. Mei Ji hugged her ample chest. Her face didn't have any color. She slumped and one of her knees touched the ground as she was trying to endure the backfire. Her heart was chilled as vitality drained away from her. Stay here! So many voices hissed from everywhere. Ming Hao's clones were ballooning like ghosts. Some of them parted to stop Telika, and the others. Rot. All of them should rot. Gan Fu screamed like a brutal ghost. The green blood pond suddenly divided into pieces as if it was a green fabric sheet that got torn. Rotting acid splashed on Ming Hao's clones, which were circling. Ming Hao's clones dissolved as if boiling water had poured on them. This attack had hurt Ming Hao. He couldn't hold his anger. Each of his clones thundered. Brian, you want to watch until when? As the Soul Control Chief, it's natural that you die to protect your master. I don't need to die for you two, eh? The god Lord mocked, but he still stepped forward and raised one hand to grab Batum. 5 sharp jets of light emerged with the power of 5 elements. Together, they were like an angel's hand tearing Batum's stormy field. Batum was really afraid of the God Lord. Seeing him attack, although he thought that the light power wasn't really powerful and was strange somehow, Batum had pulled himself together to wait for the attack. He didn't dare to underestimate him. It was because he had seen the god Lord fight against Ganfu and force her helter-skelter. He knew the other had supernatural abilities. Batum's vigilance made Ming Hao relax. Ling Mei, how dare you? Mei Ji was still on the ground and roaring while still bleeding. Ling Mei wore an indifferent face. She had seized the chance when everything was the most chaotic to dash Shi Yan's body forward. She hovered low and waited for the best chance to kill Shi Yan's body. It was her real purpose. She had been patient enough. She had watched Brian take action, suppress Meiji, and direct Telika to attack others, which had lured Audrey away from Shi Yan's body. Finally, she earned the chance to create a rapid water saber that was aimed to kill Shi Yan in one moment. Mei Ji screamed even though she was vomiting blood. Audrey's face paled. She also started bleeding. She was scared out of her wits when this happened all of a sudden. Only Ming Hao didn't look at this area. He was still entangled with Ganfu. He had even let his souls melt to drain Ganfu's lifeblood. At this moment, Shi Yan had put his life in the other's protection. He had urged the life power Upanishad one more time. The life ball glowed with a mesmerizing halo and continuously released the immense life energy to attract the absolute beginning original symbol. The absolute beginning original symbol that had paused now resumed. Moreover, its speed got faster so that it wasn't even going to take even 15 minutes. Of course, if the body was destroyed, the soul was going to hurt badly. Even if he had the absolute beginning original symbol and his soul altar couldn't return to the body shortly, the others could still strike him to death. Don't blame me. Blame yourself for having so many marvelous powers. You don't want to join our mysterious Sky Clan. Blame the power Upanishad symbol tower. It's too important. It's more important than a future territory ancestor realm expert. Thus, I have to kill you. I can't give you more room and time to grow. Ling Mei was discreetly regretful, but her murderous intent wasn't shaken. The water saber didn't halt. That little girl is resolutely evil. However, she's a little unskilled. If we let you get what you want, those who have lived dozens of thousands of years like us have lived our lives for nothing? Right before Ling Mei slashed her saber, the God Lord's cold voice suddenly arose. It was strange because the God Lord was fighting against Batum up there in the sky above their heads. I'm sorry. Your tricks are old. We are sick of using them 10,000 years ago. The God Lord tightened his fist. It was like he had pulled all the lights of the immensely vast star into his punch, and his punch, now, contained energy that accumulated from many suns, grumblingly blowing towards the water saber. Ling Mei unconsciously lifted her head to look at the sky. She was dumbstruck when she found the God Lord still fighting with Batum up there. Shortly after, the God Lord turned into one of Ming Hao's clones. She was chilled as she recognized that the God Lord had never left. It was a trap set for her. The conversation between the God Lord and Ming Hao was just a trick to fool people that used Ming Hao's clones. Chapter 1432, Collect. Chapter 1432, Collect. Underscoring May understood it now. However, it was too bad as it was too late. Boom! Billions of light beams bloomed like the most beautiful firework performance in front of Ling Mei's eyes. A rainbow band shot over like a sharp ribbon, but it was actually a life-taking lance that stabbed the rapid water saber. The water saber vanished immediately. Ling Mei was hit hard. She was held still before the dazzling light covered her entirely. Madam, Madam, Madam Ling Mei. The black-armored guards of the mysterious Sky Clan shrieked. They quit attacking Audrey, turning around and plunging. But it was too late. It will be much better if you know your lot, right? For my whole life, I hated women who were too smart. I loathe women who always want to stir up a storm, especially the beautiful ones, said the God Lord. The 5 bright stars twirled in the sky, full of light. They were like lightning, striking the souls that lingered in the mundane world. All pounded on Ling Mei. Ling Mei's body had so many cracks and cut, making her bleed. Most of her wounds were terrifyingly deep to the bones. Thud! Her body fell on the ground and rolled to the rock pile. Her blood dyed the rocks, while her bright, witty eyes dimmed out. Swoosh! 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 The black-armored guards of the mysterious Sky Clan landed by her, protecting her in case the God Lord wanted to attack more furiously. The God Lord didn't chase after her. He clasped his hand behind his back and wore a haughty, cold face. If Shi Yan wants to kill you, he will kill you. I won't do his chores for him. If I kill you for him, he won't appreciate me. Well, I'm his enemy anyway. He lifted his head to look at Batum, sneering and yelling. Get down here. The 5 jets of light shot from his fingertips, crossing the sky and covering Batum. The God Lord pulled. Batum was shaken immediately. His blasting storm tore and exploded. Batum's round body fell as he couldn't endure that. The mysterious Sky Clan guards waited and protected Ling Mei. They didn't dare to move and attack the God Lord. Mei Ji wasn't far from them, her charming face as pale as white paper. She stopped bleeding and still had some energy. However, her internal wounds were serious. The reluctant feeling she had when her life was draining away scared her and made her restless. Audrey relaxed when she saw the God Lord take action. He had attacked Ling Mei. Standing by Shi Yan, he pulled Batum down. Audrey knew that this battle would soon come to an end. I won't let you get it. You damn pagans. Gan Fu of the Devouring Clan was aging fast, her vitality draining rapidly. The blood pond underneath bubbled and sizzled. Her aura surged grumblingly like a burning flame. Each clone of Ming how paled in fright. Seeing Gan Fu want to destroy everybody altogether, Ming Hao hesitated for a few seconds. Then he gathered all of his clones. Ming Hao now had only 1 clone. He rose his hand and touched the void. A small world emerged that turned complicated. He stopped Telika, Farlow, and Yerbo in that world and prevented them from making other moves. He backed off and said, I don't want to die with you. If you want, you can die alone. You're scared. I know you're scared. Gan Fu screamed crazily and glided through Ming Hao to reach Shi Yan. Uncle! Audrey screamed hoarsely. Ming Hao was indifferent, as if he didn't hear her calling. He didn't help Shi Yan stop Gan Fu's last attack. The God Lord looked at the sky and slashed. The world of light bloomed. Batum bounced upside down like a rubber ball. He sneered and didn't think much about Gan Fu's strike. Gan Fu brought her lifeblood that had boosted her corrosion power Upanishad and aimed at Shi Yan's 2 souls. Ming Hao and the God Lord just watched. They didn't interfere, and they looked somehow joking. Ling Mei recovered slightly. Because Gan Fu had escaped the siege, she had risen the other spirits. However, seeing Ming Hao's and the God Lord's faces, she felt so chilled. She knew that it wouldn't be nice at the end. The absolute beginning symbols on the Power Upanishad symbol tower had reached the last level. So many symbols were now congregating at the last symbol. After that, the absolute beginning original symbol was going to form. Gan Fu used her corrosion power Upanishad to try to destroy everything with her. The God Lord had stepped aside and Ming Hao had backed off. Eventually, she reached Shi Yan's soul altar and tried to attack his 2 souls. Shi Yan's host soul gave a cunning, strange face as it didn't duck. The jet black hole, like a bottomless abyss, flew out of the tier of power Upanishads and headed to Gan Fu. The poisonous green water was made of her life blood, and the erosive energy poured into the black hole. Shi Yan's souls were intact. The black hole was revolving like a greedy mouth that would never be satisfied. Ganfu was stunned. Seconds later, her shriveled body cracked like a dry log of wood. Her body made crack noises and shattered. Her soul altar shook. As her host's soul could feel the desperate fear, she wanted to run away as fast as possible. The hovering black hole sucked her soul altar, while pieces of her shattering body fell like chips of wood. There was no blood left. It seems that the fellows of the Devouring Clan don't know the real power of the Devouring Power Upanishad. They don't know that the Devouring Power Upanishad is the nemesis of the 8 great evil power Upanishads. It looks like they don't know a thing about this power. It seems like they've lost it for a really long time. Ming Hao looked dark and harsh as he ridiculed them. Well, she thought she was great with her corrosion power Upanishad. She didn't know that the rising tide attacks of the 8 power Upanishads could be easily dissolved. It's a waste that she will be killed at the peak of a mortal realm. The god Lord continued. Clearly, the warriors from the sea domain of nihility don't have a profound knowledge of the devouring power Upanishad. The warriors with the 8 great evil power Upanishads dare to die together with the warrior who has the devouring power Upanishad. They're ignorant anyway. In fact, those warriors of the Devouring Clan didn't understand the full extent of the devouring power Upanishad. It was because they had lost the said power for a long time. It had been so long that they had forgotten that the devouring power Upanishad was the root of the Devouring Clan. It was the most powerful power Upanishad that only the chief of the clan could cultivate. Today, Ganfu's death was going to remind the Devouring Clan and the creatures in the sea domain of nihility that the devouring power Upanishad was the true nemesis of the 8 evil power Upanishads. Ganfu was dead. Her soul was swallowed. Batum collapsed. The god Lord and Ming Hao's deeds had shut him down. I give up, Batum shouted and backed off, trying his best to run away. The god Lord didn't want to look at him. He just let the ugly old man run away, his eyes filled with disgust. Ming Hao didn't stop him, either. While his mind flickered, his power Upanishad changed. His soul body now had countless fine spacelets. Telika, Yerberg, and Farlow looked at those fine cracks and felt insecure. Then their bodies had so many cracks. Their blood splashed, and their bones broke. Space power Upanishad. An expert cultivating space power Upanishad at 3rd sky of a mortal realm. Who is this monster? Telika, Yerberg, and Farlow screamed. They didn't dare to linger and ran away as Batum had just done. The black guards of the mysterious Sky Clan were awakened when they saw Batum run away. They supported Ling Mei and left instantly. Both the god Lord and Ming Hao didn't stop them. They looked at those people running away, their faces calm and natural. Uncle, why didn't you stop them? Why did you let them escape? Asked Audrey. Underneath, Mei Ji's breathing was weakening. She was leaning against a rock. Blood oozed from the corner of her mouth to her white neck. Her eyes gradually lost focus. She blankly looked at the sky. Escape? Ming Hao shook his head. They can't. Brian and I have been trapped here for dozens of years. We've tried all the methods, but we haven't gotten out of this place yet. How could they leave easily? It's easy to get in, but it's not simple to get out. Then why didn't you kill them? You're not afraid of them spreading information? Audrey was surprised. No one could send messages out of here. Otherwise, when that kid sent a message, we would have taken action. This area is a blocked space. I'm at 3rd sky of a mortal realm, cultivating space power Upanishad, but I couldn't tear a small space slit. What can they do? Ming Hao felt funny. So I just did something unnecessary, snorted Audrey. No. Didn't you seize the chance to assault the one who believes she's infallible? Smiled Ming Hao. Audrey pulled a long face. The little girl down there. How is she related to Shiryen? Her condition isn't right. Her vitality is draining. She came here with wounds. Then she got hurt further. Her root is shaken. If we don't do anything, it will be fatal, Ming Hao observed Meiji and frowned. I don't know their relationship. Audrey shook her head. He's almost done, the God Lord intervened. He soared up into the sky, hovering by Ming Hao and Audrey. He didn't bat an eye at Meiji. In his mind, Meiji wasn't important. Her life didn't matter to him. Ming Hao turned to Shiryen with his bright and sharp eyes. He didn't look at Meiji anymore. Under Shiryan's sea of consciousness, all the absolute beginning symbols on the Power Upanishad symbol tower had merged into one absolute beginning original symbol. That absolute beginning original symbol had bright, seven-colored halos. It was like the sun at dawn slowly rising to the top of the tower. Eventually, it merged into Shiryan's life crystal ball. Inside the life ball, the absolute beginning original symbol settled and released the enormous vitality. At this moment, the life energy magnetic field on Shiryan's body was so abundant that Ming Hao and God Lord had to envy him. They were stunned too. After the absolute beginning original symbol had left the Power Upanishad symbol tower, the imposing, mountain-like tower began to shrink. The God Lord's eyes rolled as he spoke all of a sudden. Your bloodthirsty force got the benefit from the absolute beginning original symbol. I will take the Power Upanishad symbol tower. You had conserved your power and let me fight against two experts at my realm. You planned to vie for the Power Upanishad symbol tower, didn't you? Ming Hao talked coldly. Ming Hao, you want to take them all. Brian grimaced. While they were quarreling, Shiryan's soul altar suddenly shrank and returned to his body like a projection. Then, Shiryan opened his eyes and raised his hand. The shrinking Power Upanishad symbol tower fell into his hand and disappeared instantly. Chapter 1433, Surging Vitality. Chapter 1433, Surging Vitality. Shiryan had seen the battles clearly. Ling Mei suddenly aimed at him. Telika struck a fatal attack. Meiji acted strangely. Opening his eyes, Shiryan looked a little puzzled. He had stashed the Power Upanishad symbol tower in his incipient extent and frowned. The absolute beginning original symbol had fused with his Power Upanishad and it had imparted him an enormous amount of information. At this moment, it was like billions of electric currents moving back and forth in his brains. The absolute beginning original symbol had triggered them and weaved through his veins, bones, blood, flesh, and even his soul. He used his soul consciousness to check. He found so many absolute beginning symbols flying out of the life crystal ball like fireflies, entering his body, meridians, internal organs, and brain. The fierce vitality surged in his body and made him a sea of life. The black hole on the tier of Power Upanishad still moved. It was digesting Ganfu's energy. Ganfu's corrosive energy, life energy, and soul altar sunk into the black hole, getting filtered and refined. At the same time, there were so many pictures that arose in Shiryan's mind. They were Ganfu's experiences, her memories from birth, and her cultivating progress. The devouring Power Upanishad had unexpectedly extracted her memories while digesting her energy. Of course, Shiryan wasn't interested in Ganfu's life experiences. He focused on the life ball where the absolute beginning original symbol was throbbing like a massive heart and releasing surging vitality. Then he checked more carefully. His soul was shaken hard. An ultimate supernatural ability, like a streak of life, materialized and became part of his Power Upanishad. It was called Surging Vitality. Emerging together with the surging vitality was a warm air current. That warm air current came from the Power Upanishad symbol tower inside his incipient extent. At this moment, in Sher Yan's brilliant galaxy-like incipient extent, the Power Upanishad symbol tower was standing on a barren star. The warm air current shot out from the top of the tower and ran directly to Sher Yan's brain. To be exact, it went to Sher Yan's co-soul. A slurred memory that had been dusted for billions of years had become disordered sections of mysterious symbols. Sure, Yan knew what they were. However, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't understand them. However, there was a vague connection between him and the Power Upanishad symbol tower. The Power Upanishad symbol tower had connected to his soul and sent surging memories to a deep place in his soul. His co-soul had merged with desolate soul. It had a deep connection with the Power Upanishad symbol tower. Those blurry memories seemed to wait for him to activate the absolute beginning creature soul, which was the complete fusion of the heaven flames. That's how he could unlock those wisps of memory. You want to take the Power Upanishad symbol tower too? Your greed is bottomless. The God Lord's voice arose, his face twisted in anger. Kid, you want to take all the benefits. Ming how knitted his brows. He was also interested in the Power Upanishad symbol tower. He had been ready to combat with the God Lord to vie for it. He didn't expect that Sher Yan would take the tower into his incipient extent immediately as he woke up. It gave Ming how a nod in his mind. It's no use if you take the Power Upanishad symbol tower. I can use it to break this area. The Power Upanishad symbol tower is the key to unlock this place. Because I have the absolute beginning original symbol. Only I can control it, said Sher Yan casually. Nonsense, the God Lord snorted and didn't buy it. Ming Hao also frowned, his countenances changing continuously. Sure, Yan looked at the God Lord and then at Ming Hao with a grin. It's all right if you don't believe it. Let's try. It's simple. I'll give you the Power Upanishad symbol tower, and you guys can see if you can explore it to get us out of here or not. Then his eyes changed. The Power Upanishad symbol tower flew out of his head and floated in front of Ming, Hao, and the God Lord. Sher Yan was calm, but he was laughing inwardly. At this moment, the Power Upanishad symbol tower and his co-soul were connected. No matter how hard the God, Lord, and Ming Hao tried, they couldn't find anything from the tower. He didn't mind that the God, Lord, and Ming Hao were using their technique and the soul consciousness to connect to the Power Upanishad symbol tower. He swayed and landed by Meiji. At this moment, Meiji's face was ashen, her graceful body gory. Her stomach was bleeding terribly. She lay on her side by a rock. Her eyes didn't have focus as her vitality was draining. Usually, when the body was hurt severely, the vitality slowly ran out. Once her vitality was gone, her body wasn't going to have a bit of energy left for her to function. Taking the parents of the little skeleton, for example, because their vitality was drained, their bone bodies didn't have even a beam of light. If the White Bone clan hadn't cultivated the bone body, they would have decayed. When someone touched them, they would have turned into dust. If he let Meiji's vitality go away, her god power was going to vanish altogether. When she died, it was going to drag her life magnetic field together. The so-called life magnetic field was actually the soul magnetic field and the fountain of the host soul. When the life magnetic field was gone, it was death. Warriors never came back to life from that state. It would be the same to Sher Yan. When his vitality was drained, he would be dead, completely dead. Why? Sher Yan pondered for a few seconds. He asked in a soft voice, his mind complicated. He didn't consider Meiji a friend who he could trust. There was some knot between them. They had fought furiously, and he used to insult her really badly. He thought that Meiji must have loathed him. When Telika had attacked him and Ling Mei ambushed him, he thought that Meiji would stand on Ling Mei's side. He wouldn't be surprised if it happened. Anyway, the Power Upanishad symbol tower was so important to her phantom clan. It was a temptation that she couldn't resist. For the tower, Ling Mei had ignored Tu Shiqi's reminder to resolutely kill him. How could Meiji be an exception? He had never imagined that Meiji would help him. Don't ask me. I don't know why either. I just thought that, even if you have to be killed, I should be the one to kill you. I won't let the others kill you, especially Ling Mei. Meiji said weakly, but she still sounded resolute. There was a flame of anger in her voice, and sure, Yen didn't know who had enraged her. Good, I'll wait for you to kill me, said Shi Yen after a while. So many absolute beginning symbols were like joyful creatures moving out of his hands and entering Meiji's soft body magically. Those absolute beginning symbols rolled and pumped thick vitality to nurture Meiji and raise her vitality. It was a supernatural ability that the absolute beginning original symbol had imprinted in his soul. Surging vitality. Magically, Meiji's skin glowed in health. Her pale face regained colors. The wounds in her body healed rapidly. A warm vitality shrouded her and healed all her wounds. Every muscle of hers was filled with energy, which shook her soul magnetic field continuously. Strange light ripples from her bright eyes on her glowing face, her full lips moisturized. She had regained her peerless glamour. Shortly after, Meiji stood upright as she was sinking in a warm sea of life. It felt so comfortable, her furrowed brows relaxed. At this moment, Shi Yen retracted his hand. The absolute beginning symbols in Meiji's body returned to his palm. Those swimming symbols then returned to the absolute beginning original symbol inside the life ball. I won't be thankful. All of the wounds I got are because of you. Meiji's eyes were complicated as she snorted. Sure, Yen beamed brightly. I don't need you to be thankful. I hope you continue to hate me. I like women who hate me. Psychopath. Meiji hissed. Can't contact it. That kid must have done something. Suddenly, the God Lord and Ming how dispiritedly screamed. They all looked begrudging when they decided to give up their attempt on connecting to the Power Upanishad symbol tower. So many symbols and light energy outside the Power Upanishad symbol tower were retrieved. They fell like starlight on the God Lord and Ming Hao. They had tried many secret techniques they knew to try to find the key to connect to the tower. Eventually, they were disappointed. The Power Upanishad symbol tower was like a dead city. It didn't respond at all. They couldn't bring it to their hands or to the fantasy sky ring. Of course, they deemed that Shi Yen had done something cunning. It was true anyway. I told you. Shi Yen smiled, waving his hand. The flurry in his co-soul rippled like the sea water. It connected to the Power Upanishad symbol tower immediately. The Power Upanishad symbol tower that the God Lord and Ming how couldn't take was now dropping like a hat falling on Shi Yen's head. It disappeared into his nape. Deal with that barrier. Hurry up. We have to escape here as soon as possible. We've been trapped for a long time. I'm worried about the desolate territory, said Ming Hao. We don't need to hurry. When we open the restriction, some fish will seize the chance to run away, sneered Shi Yen. He turned to the direction where Batum and the others had left, stroking the corner of his mouth, his voice low. Unlike you guys, we don't know how precious the Power Upanishad symbol tower is, but the members of the 7 great clans in this sea domain of nihility know. If they know we have the Power Upanishad symbol tower, it will be a lot of trouble. He didn't say much. The God Lord and Ming how understood his idea, but it didn't mean they approved it. The God Lord snorted. What if they know? You keep the Power Upanishad symbol tower, not us. If they want, they will trouble you, won't they? Moreover, when you open this area, we will return to desolate territory at our fastest speed. What can they do to us? The members of those 7 great clans have been searching for our desolate territory for a long time. Ming Hong, lying on Audrey's shoulder, intervened. There is something you don't know. They are so greedy for a wounded, absolute beginning creature. Shi Yan's correct. If they escape alive, for the Power Upanishad symbol tower, their seniors won't hesitate to pay any price to get it. They will chase after us. We will be killed before we can reach the territory entrance. What do you mean? Frowned the God Lord. Leave no one alive, Shi Yan said seriously. How about her? The God Lord gave a faint smile, looking at Meiji with the awkward countenance. She's not from our desolate territory. Are you going to kill her too? Do you need a hand? Meiji felt shivers send down her spine. She's my woman. Of course, we won't count her. I will manage my internal matters well. You don't need to care about it, Shi Yan said naturally. Meiji's charming face was blushing when she heard that. She looked a little loathing and uneasy. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.